Chapter 547. What do you plan to do next? Are you coming with me, or do you have your own plans? Seeing that Lu Ping was secretly thinking about the meaning of her words, Tianqin Laozu knew that Lu Ping had already remembered her words. Her goal had been achieved, so she asked. As for whether Lu Ping could understand her meaning now, Tianqin Laozu did not take it to heart. As long as he remembered it, he would eventually understand her painstaking efforts in the future. Lu Ping thought for a while and took out a map made of unknown materials from his storage magic tool. This map was an incomplete map. After Lu Ping killed the alchemy master of the Crystal Palace, Peng Shiyuan, he obtained it from him. At that time, the cultivators of the Liao family also rushed over to kill Peng Shiyuan. Their purpose was to obtain something. Although Lu Ping did not know what the Liao family wanted, after Lu Ping sorted out the items on Peng Shiyuan's body, he felt that only this incomplete map was the most suspicious. However, Lu Ping could not find any clues from this incomplete map. However, just when Lu Ping and Tianqin Laozu came to the small island where the Carefree School, Heavenly Moon Sect, and Yuan family were confronting each other, and just when the two sides were arguing about how to distribute the treasures that were about to be unearthed, Lu Ping suddenly discovered to his surprise that along the way with Tianqin Laozu, the scene along the way, including the distribution and terrain of the island, was very similar to the incomplete map that Lu Ping had been pondering about for a long time. After Lu Ping and the others came to the island, the terrain of the island made Lu Ping even more certain that the distribution of the islands in this area was indeed the same as the islands on the corner of the incomplete map. Tianqin Laozu saw Lu Ping take out a broken map from his storage magic tool. She thought of something and asked, "Is this the map of the Fallen Archipelago?" Lu Ping nodded and said, "I didn't know before. It was only after Martial Uncle came here that I found out that this incomplete map is actually a map of the various islands in the depths of the Fallen Archipelago." Tianqin Laozu took the map from Lu Ping and looked at it. She quickly nodded and said, "It is indeed so. It seems that the location shown in the center of this incomplete map is very particular." Lu Ping thought for a while and said, "Martial Uncle, did you notice that when the Yuan family left the island, the direction they went was exactly in the center marked on the incomplete map?" Hearing this, Tianqin Laozu took a closer look and suddenly frowned. He said, "It is true. The location shown in the center of this map must be very strange. And according to what you just said, Peng Shiyuan seems to have stolen this map from the Lu family in the Central Plains. So, the Crystal Palace, the Lu family, and the Yuan family may all know this area and have come here. At that time, when the three parties fight, maybe we will have a chance to fish in troubled waters." Lu Ping was startled by Tianqin Laozu's words and hurriedly said, "Martial Uncle, these three families are all outstanding in the cultivation world. If the practitioners of these three families are really here, the Yuan family alone has 4 Dharma realms Laozu. The Lu family is not weak either. I am afraid that the Crystal Palace's strength will be even stronger. If the three families are really fighting for a rare treasure, how can we fight against so many practitioners with just the 2 of us? Maybe we will be besieged by them first." Tianqin Laozu giggled and said, "It seems that you have not been blinded by the temptation of treasures. But since this map matches the Fallen Archipelago, then this mark must be a very important place. If we really don't go and check it out, I think you will not be satisfied. This time, we are just going to act according to the circumstances. If the three parties really fight, the movement will not be small. There must be people hiding around and watching, so we will not attract too much attention. As for the opportunity to fish in troubled waters, it does not only mean taking advantage of the three families." Lu Ping looked at Tianqin Laozu with a dumbfounded expression. Lu Ping always thought that he was very bold, but he did not expect that Tianqin Laozu's appetite was even bigger, so he cautiously said, "Martial Uncle, even so, the practitioners who dare to spy on the three parties must be Dharma realms Laozu. Although Martial Uncle's cultivation is superb, I can't help you. At that time, I am afraid that you will also be in a difficult situation. What's more, it is easy to dodge a spear in the open, but difficult to guard against an arrow in the dark. Martial Uncle, you should be careful." Tianqin Laozu looked at Lu Ping amusedly and said, "You really don't want to go?" Lu Ping was stunned for a moment and then said with an embarrassed smile, "Of course I will go, but it is not a wise thing for martial uncle to participate in the fight. Tianqin Laozu's expression showed that he had expected it and said, "That's good." The two of them flew deeper into the fallen archipelago according to the direction marked on the map. After a full 3 days, although Tianqin Laozu, a Dharma Realms cultivator, led the way, the two of them still walked in an extremely awkward manner. In the depths of the fallen archipelago, not only was the concentration of the poisonous fog much thicker than the periphery, but the number of poisonous beasts on the island was also much more frequent and large than before, so the two of them could not kill anymore. Even with Tianqin Laozu's Dharma Realms cultivation, the consumption of zhenqi was a big headache. However, this also made Tianqin Laozu have a deeper understanding of Lu Ping's cultivation. Lu Ping's strength was naturally far less than Tianqin Laozu's, but the ability to continue fighting brought by the rich zhenqi made Tianqin Laozu look at him in a new light. In Tianqin Laozu's opinion, even a cultivator of the 8th or 9th stage of the core forging stage might not be able to fight for such a long time like Lu Ping, without worrying about the exhaustion of zhenqi. It was precisely because of this that Tianqin Laozu, who had originally thought that Lu Ping would become her burden, was able to save a lot of zhenqi, so she could quickly take Lu Ping to the most dangerous place in the depths of the fallen archipelago. Of course, when the two of them went to the depths of the fallen archipelago, they also had a lot of harvests along the way. Both of them were masters of alchemy, and Tianqin Laozu was an alchemy grandmaster. The deeper into the central area of the fallen archipelago, the more dangerous it was, but the density of the spirit grasses growing there was also greatly increased. Along the way, the two of them had collected more than 303,000-year-old spirit grasses. In the middle of the journey, the two of them even encountered 2 places where the poisonous fog gathered, but unfortunately, they only harvested a strange item and a high-grade Xian-level spirit item. Lu Ping asked Tianqin Laozu for the wind attribute strange item and gave it to Lu Bai to condense her protective aura, while the spirit item was kept by Tianqin Laozu. In the distance, there was a rumbling sound. In the direction of the sound was the central area marked on the map. It seems that the battle ahead has begun, Tianqin Laozu said with a dignified expression. We are still too late. Lu Ping's face looked a little pale because of the long period of fighting with the poisonous beasts. After hearing the roar of fighting in the distance, he said with some regret, "Isn't that better?" Tianqin Laozu smiled slightly, and his figure suddenly sped up again. Lu Ping had no choice but to swallow a good recovery medicinal pill, and then held an upper-grade spirit stone in each hand. A light flashed, and Lu Ping's figure suddenly turned into water and dissipated. When he reappeared, he was already 10 feet behind Tianqin Laozu. Looking at the increasing distance between the two, although Lu Ping knew that this was mainly because of the difference in cultivation between the two, Lu Ping still sighed in his heart. It seems that I really should find a flying magic tool for myself. Now in the overseas cultivation world, the shortcomings of Lu Ping's lack of a flying magic tool are not obvious, but once in the Central Earth, without the support of the endless sea under his feet, Lu Ping's escape technique will be greatly reduced. The roar was getting louder and louder, and it seemed that the place where the battle broke out was only a few miles away from here. At this moment, Tianqin Laozu suddenly stopped flying. Lu Ping finally reached Tianqin Laozu's side, and his face was even slightly sweating. Tianqin Laozu looked at Lu Ping and said with a smile, "The richness of your Jin Yuan has reached an incredible level. Usually when you fight with others, you rarely run out of Jin Yuan, right?" Tianqin Laozu did not wait for Lu Ping to answer and said, "Now you first recover your Jin Yuan. See if there is any difference." Lu Ping then circulated the true essence in his body according to the cultivation method. Sure enough, he found that every time the true essence completed a cycle in his bloodline, the amount of true essence he recovered was higher than the usual amount. Lu Ping looked happy, and when he turned to look at Tianqin Laozu, he saw that Tianqin Laozu was looking into the distance with a dignified face. Lu Ping followed Tianqin Laozu's gaze and saw that in the sky a few miles away, rays of light had already illuminated the sky, which was originally covered by the poisonous fog, into a pale white color. Lu Ping's eyes flashed with a green light, and the scene a few miles away became much clearer in his eyes. He saw that in the pale white, countless rays of light were flashing, and each ray of light was accompanied by an earth-shattering sound. Every loud sound had the power to move mountains and fill up the seas. This was what a battle between Dharma adepts should be like. Every move they made was followed by their words, and they had great power. Tianqin Laozu saw the green light flashing in Lu Ping's eyes and asked, "What kind of eye technique do you practice? Can you see the scene a few miles away?" Lu Ping's practice of the three pure eyes was not a secret in Jinling, and naturally, there was no need to hide it from Tianqin Laozu. Thus, he shook his head and said, "I practice the three pure eyes. Now that I'm affected by the battle, I can only see the general situation of both sides, and I can't distinguish between each adept." Tianqin Laozu was a little surprised and asked, "Isn't this Senior Sister Xuanqin's best technique?" Senior Sister Xuanqin was able to become our sect's only array master, and the power of this technique was of great help to her. "I didn't think that you would be able to learn such a secret technique from her. It looks like she values you very much." Lu Ping knew that this was mainly because of Hu Lily, but Lu Ping naturally would not explain anything. He just smiled and did not say anything. Chapter 548. Tianqin Laozu thought for a moment, then turned his head and said, "The battle is so intense. It is obvious that they have encountered a rare treasure. And judging from the roars coming from afar, it seems like it is not a chaotic battle like you said. However, there are all kinds of spells flashing in the battle, and with the influence of the gray poisonous fog, it is difficult for me to distinguish who the two sides are. I can only take the risk and go forward to explore." As Tianqin Laozu finished speaking, his body moved forward again, and at the same time, he tried to hide the aura around his body. As for Lu Ping, he did not take off the stone armor on his body and followed closely behind Tianqin Laozu, once again approaching the direction of the battle. "Uncle Master, have you noticed that there are Dharma adepts from other sects in the surrounding void, hiding and spying on us?" Lu Ping suddenly thought of something and asked Tianqin Laozu, who was beside him. "Not at the moment. It seems that this place is indeed an extremely secretive place. Very few practitioners can find this place. No wonder these people dare to fight here without any fear of being discovered." Just as Tianqin Laozu and Lu Ping were only 4 or 5 miles away from the battle, Lu Ping and Tianqin Laozu could use their respective eye sorcery to barely observe the battle from all sides. However, just as the celestial Zither ancestor's eyes flickered with a golden light, a furious roar suddenly exploded like thunder from the people engaged in battle. "Who is there?" Scram. A sound wave rolled towards Tianqin Laozu. This was the voice of Yuan Guang Laozu from the Crystal Palace. Tianqin's expression changed, and she quickly retreated. Lu Ping, who was beside her, was not affected, as if he had not been discovered. However, when he saw Tianqin Laozu retreating, he did not dare to move forward alone, so he also retreated. Just as the two of them retreated, a spirit light broke through the air, like a meteor, and smashed into the place where the two of them were just hiding. After the roars stopped shaking, Lu Ping saw that the ground where the two of them were just standing, there was a large pit several feet wide. Black dirty water kept coming out from the ground, and in a moment, it had filled up most of the pit, temporarily escaping from the attack of Yuan Guang Laozu. Tianqin Laozu looked at Lu Ping with a serious expression and asked, "What did you just see?" Lu Ping's expression also became a bit ugly, and he said, "The Xinling sect cultivators seem to be inside, and they are fighting together with the Crystal Palace cultivators. On the other side, besides the 4 Dharma adepts from the Yuan family, there are also 3 Dharma adepts, but I do not know who they are." Tianqin Laozu nodded and said, "My eye technique may not be as good as the 3 pure true eyes in seeing through some things, but in terms of seeing far and clearly, it is much better than your eye technique." The two sides of the battle are actually divided into 4 groups. Other than the Xinling sect's Laozu who joined forces with the Crystal Palace, there are also 3 Dharma adepts who joined forces with the Yuan family, and they seem to be from the Lu family of the Central Plains. The Yuan family and the Lu family joined forces, and there were a total of 8 Dharma adepts, among which there were 3 mid-Dharma adepts. On the side of the Crystal Palace, although there were also 8 Dharma adepts, there were only 2 mid-Dharma adepts, Yuan Guang Laozu and Dao Yin Laozu. From the looks of it, It seemed that the combined strength of the Yuan family and the Lu family was stronger. However, in reality, it was the Crystal Palace that was suppressing the practitioners of the two families in the battle. Dao Yin Laozu was entangled with a mid-Dharma adept from the Lu family and the remaining 7 Dharma adepts from the Crystal Palace, under the leadership of Yuan Guang Laozu, formed a strange 7-star formation. The 7 of them supported each other and took care of each other. They actually managed to trap the 2 mid-Dharma adepts from the Yuan family, as well as the other 5 early Dharma adepts, in the formation. The 7-star Big Dipper Formation. This is a small-scale Big Dipper formation of the Crystal Palace. It has a great reputation in the East Sea. Although the Yuan family and the Lu family have joined forces, there is a lack of trust between them, and there is not much tacit understanding between them. Although the individual strength of the practitioners is stronger than that of the Crystal Palace, as a whole, they are completely suppressed by the Crystal Palace. Tianqin Laozu was still retreating. Only when he had retreated far enough did Tianqin Laozu say to Lu Ping, "Now is really not the time to take advantage of the situation. Once the 2 of us appear, I am afraid that the 2 sides in the battle will turn around and kill us first. However, did you notice that the last time I saw the Yuan family, the 5 Dharma adepts of the Yuan family had brought 7 or 8 late core forging adepts with them? Now, these adepts have disappeared." In the battle between the Dharma adepts and Laozu, these late core forging adepts will naturally go as far as they can. Speaking up to this point, Lu Ping's heart jumped, and he said, "Uncle, do you mean that you want to target these adepts?" Tianqin Laozu sneered and said, "This is the Fallen Archipelago. As long as you don't leave any traces, killing them is killing them. What else can you do?" However, these late-stage core forging cultivators from the Crystal Palace and the Yuan clan are not that easy to kill. These cultivators probably have life-saving methods given to them by their sections. Even if they don't have these methods, the Yuan clan and the Crystal Palace have their own Dao soldier array. As long as they work together in time, even I will not be able to do anything in a short period of time. Unless you are really a Dharma adept, then the 2 of us will have a chance to kill the opponent's late-stage core forging cultivator instantly. Lu Ping understood what Tianqin Laozu meant and said with a smile, "Then let's find trouble with the Xinling sect or the Lu family. However, if the other party deliberately hides, I am afraid that it will be really difficult to find them." Tianqin Laozu didn't take it seriously and said, "I'm just trying my luck. The most important thing is to see the situation on this island and see what kind of treasures these 4 sects are fighting for. Besides, I don't know if Xinling sect sent any late core forging cultivators into the Fallen Archipelago. Maybe it's the same as my Xinling sect, where only Dao Xin followed the Crystal Palace into the Fallen Archipelago." Lu Ping nodded. At least this time, Tianqin Laozu didn't let the 2 late core forging adepts, Xian San and Xian Su, follow her into the Fallen Archipelago. But Lu Ping was an exception. He sneaked in out of curiosity. In a remote part of the island, there was a flatland with an area of about half a hectare. The ground was densely covered with spirit grasses, almost half of which were at least 1,000 years old. Among the spirit grasses, there were also spirit grasses that were more than 3,000 years old. Tianqin Laozu and Lu Ping were hiding in a secluded place outside this remote mountain pass. At this time, in this wild spirit grass garden, a total of 9 late core forging adepts were gathering spirit grasses on the flatland in an orderly manner. These 9 adepts were very skilled in gathering spirit grasses. While they were gathering spirit grasses, they maintained a relatively fixed formation, as if they were guarding against something. Everything looked orderly. Obviously, these 9 adepts often appeared in some dangerous places, always on guard against accidents. These are cultivators from the Lu family, but one of them is Liao Ruinjia from the North Sea. It seems that these 2 families really have some kind of relationship. Tianqin Laozu observed for a moment, then said to Lu Ping. In fact, Lu Ping already knew that these 9 people were cultivators from the Lu family. In addition to Liao Ruinjia, the Lu family cultivator who was with Liao Ruinjia in Fantasy Spirit City, Lu Runjian, was also among them. Tianqin Laozu asked curiously, "Martial nephew Lu, how did you find this hidden place? If I hadn't come here with you, I would have thought that you had already been here." Lu Ping chuckled. He naturally wouldn't tell Tianqin Laozu that after Luan Yu advanced to the middle core forging stage, Her innate magical ability had made great progress, and she had a natural intuition for some large-scale growth of spirit grasses. So he said, "This is a secret technique disciple saw in an ancient book, but this secret technique is sometimes not effective. This time disciple was just lucky. I didn't expect to really find the location of such a spirit grass garden." Tianqin Laozu was too lazy to expose Lu Ping's simple lies. So he asked, "Look at the spirit grasses growing in the valley. Do you find anything different?" Lu Ping knew that Tianqin Laozu was referring to something, so he began to carefully examine the distribution of spirit grasses in the valley. Lu Ping himself was an alchemy grandmaster, so he had a good understanding of the growth habits of spirit grasses. Not to mention that he had learned many secret techniques of the Wood Luan clan from Luan Yu. So he had a better understanding of the cultivation and growth characteristics of spirit grasses. All he lacked was personal experience like Tianqin Laozu. So after Tianqin Laozu pointed out that something was wrong, Lu Ping immediately found clues from the growth and distribution of spirit grasses in the valley. Lu Ping asked with some confusion, "Martial uncle, something is wrong? These spirit grasses grow together, but their medicinal properties are different. Their growth habits are also different, and some are even opposite. Yet, these spirit grasses can grow together peacefully. Not only do they not weaken each other, but they are also flourishing. This is a bit strange." Tianqin Laozu nodded with appreciation, saying, "That's right. What kind of power can do this? If we can figure this out, perhaps we will be able to know the reason why the cultivators of the Crystal Palace are fighting on the island." The first reason that flashed through Lu Ping's mind was the Wonder Dew, but he still asked, could it be the growing soil? Tianqin Laozu shook her head, saying, "Although the growing soil is precious and can greatly shorten the growth time of spirit grasses, the growing soil itself is condensed together. Unless a cultivator crushed the growing soil into powder and scattered it into the spirit grasses garden. Although this spirit grasses garden is flourishing, it is obviously naturally formed. Moreover, the growing soil is unable to make spirit grasses with completely opposite medicinal properties grow together." Lu Ping pondered for a moment, then asked, "Could it be the Wonder Dew?" Tianqin Laozu was silent for a moment, then said, "If it is the growing soil, then it is also possible." The growing soil was a middle heaven rank earth attribute spirit item. It was a heavenly treasure no weaker than the Wonder Dew, but the possibility of an earth attribute spirit item of this grade appearing overseas was obviously not high. Just as the hundreds of ferocious poisonous beasts were slaughtered by the 9 Lu clan cultivators, a group of Water Crystal Palace cultivators appeared on the other side of the cliff where Lu Ping was lying in ambush. At the spot where the Lu clan cultivators were forced to stop flying, they started attacking the Lu clan cultivators in the valley from a high vantage point. Naturally, the Lu family cultivators had long since guessed that there was something fishy about the arrival of the poisonous beasts. Thus, they were already prepared for a sneak attack. However, the battle against the poisonous beasts had exhausted too much of the Lu family cultivators' primary energy. Additionally, the cultivators from Water Crystal Palace had also come prepared. Thus, they quickly suppressed the Lu family cultivators within the valley and gained the upper hand. The Crystal Palace is a famous sect in the cultivation world. Today, you attacked my Lu family cultivators for no reason. Are you not afraid of provoking the central and overseas cultivation world? Do you really think my Lu family is easy to mess with? The one who spoke was the leader of the late core forging realm cultivators, Lu Runjian. Haha, how hilarious. Since when has your Lu clan been able to represent the cultivation world of the Central Plains? If this was said by a cultivator from the Yuan family, the Crystal Palace might consider it. But who do you think you are? A family that is not even a large sect. Just because you know a few alchemy skills, you even dared to attack and kill the alchemy master of the Crystal Palace. Now you even dare to enter the secret area of the overseas cultivation world to collect treasures. Do you really think that the Crystal Palace is made of mud? The leader of the Crystal Palace cultivators who besieged the Lu family cultivators on the cliff finally explained the reason why the Crystal Palace attacked the Lu family. Lu Runjian's face immediately darkened. He said coldly, "Your sex Peng Shiwan was not killed by the Lu family cultivators. He died in the North Sea." Our Lu family has always been in the central cultivation world. His death should be more suspicious of the sects in the North Sea. You dare to attack our Lu family cultivators unscrupulously. Although the Crystal Palace is powerful, we are not afraid. We will fight you to the end." Beside Lu Ping, Tianqin Laozu snorted coldly and said, "The Lu family put the blame on the sects in the North Sea for the death of the Crystal Palace cultivators. Now that Xinling sect and the Crystal Palace are in a heated battle, the most likely person to kill the Crystal Palace cultivators in the North Sea is me, Xinling." Although Lu Ping knew that Lu Runjian's words might be to absolve the Lu family and not to put the blame on the sects in the North Sea, if the Crystal Palace really believed Lu Runjian's words, then the next sect that the Crystal Palace would deal with would be Xinling. Naturally, Lu Ping was also very dissatisfied with Lu Runjian's words. Not to mention that Peng Shiyuan was originally killed by Lu Ping and Yin Xianchu. The Crystal Palace cultivator laughed strangely and scolded, "Since your Lu family is in the Middle Earth, how do you know that junior brother Peng Shiyuan has fallen? How do you know that he died in the North Sea? Aren't you a thief, crying thief?" At first, the Crystal Palace was only suspicious, but now we are certain. Since you dare to kill the alchemy master of the Crystal Palace, even the great sects in the Middle Earth can't protect your Lu family. After saying that, the cultivators from Water Crystal Palace suddenly leapt down from the cliff. They charged towards the cultivators from the Lu family, who had been suppressed by the cultivators from Water Crystal Palace to the point where they were incapable of fighting back. In the blink of an eye, one of the wounded cultivators from the Lu family fell to the cultivators from Water Crystal Palace. The formation formed by the 9 Lu family cultivators immediately collapsed because of the death of one of them. The 8 cultivators fought on their own and were soon surrounded by the Crystal Palace cultivators. Another wretched cry rang out. Another Lu clan cultivator with a cultivation base of level 7 core forging was killed by a cultivator from Water Crystal Palace. Lu Runjian watched as his disciples were wounded and killed by the cultivators from the Crystal Palace, one after another. His eyes had long since turned blood red. Bellowing furiously, Lu Runjian did his best to repel the cultivators from the Crystal Palace who were entangled with him. He wanted to save the disciples beside him. However, even more of the cultivators from the Crystal Palace joined forces to besiege him. Lu Ping and Lyra Laozu were lying in ambush on the other side of the cliff. Watching the battle in the valley, Lu Ping's expression became more and more serious. The Lu family cultivators were fighting against the cultivators from Water Crystal Palace. In a one-on-one fight between cultivators with the same cultivation base, the Lu family cultivators were clearly no match for the cultivators from Water Crystal Palace. Part of the reason for that was due to the fact that the Lu family was an alchemy family. Killing enemies was not their forte. However, the more important reason was that the cultivators from Water Crystal Palace were much stronger compared to cultivators on the same level as them. This was the foundation of a large sect. The Crystal Palace had dominated the seas for tens of thousands of years. Even in the Central Plains, they had an illustrious reputation. It was not an undeserved reputation. However, this was not the only thing that shocked Lu Ping. Lu Ping had seen the late and peak core forging stage cultivators of Xinling, Chu Xuanqing, Wu Xianshan, and Liang Xianfeng. Compared to the 10 late core forging stage cultivators who were fighting the Lu family cultivators in the valley, almost every one of them was no weaker than Chu Xuanqing and Gua Xuanqing. They were only slightly weaker than Liang Xianfeng. Chu, Gua, and Liang could be said to be the best among the late core forging stage cultivators of Xinling. They represented the highest combat power among the late core forging stage cultivators of Xinling. And now, there were 8 or 9 such cultivators in the Crystal Palace. How many cultivators were there in the Crystal Palace, and how many of them were late core forging stage cultivators? There were definitely more than 8 or 9 late core forging stage cultivators in the Crystal Palace. Moreover, among the late core forging stage cultivators of the Crystal Palace, these cultivators were definitely not the strongest. Previously, Lu Ping's understanding of the gap between Xinling and other large sects was that the large sects and even the large sects had far more Dharma Adept Laozu and core forging stage cultivators than Xinling. He never realized that these sects had so much heritage and resources to support such a huge consumption. How could they not improve the quality of the cultivators in the sects? This was the most fundamental reason why a sect could maintain its prosperity and continuous inheritance. On the other side, Liao Ruinjia's situation was much better than Lu Runjian's. Liao Ruinjia did not fight back with all his strength when the Crystal Palace cultivators rushed forward. Instead, he firmly guarded the two Lu family cultivators beside him so that they would not be separated by the Crystal Palace cultivators. Then, at the moment when the Lu family cultivators were in danger, Liao Ruinjia suddenly threw 3 fiery red pills at the Crystal Palace cultivators in front of him. Then, he ordered the 2 Lu family cultivators beside him to protect him from the encirclement of the other Crystal Palace cultivators. Liao Ruinjia only focused on dealing with the Crystal Palace cultivator in front of him, whose cultivation level was similar to his. After the 3 fiery red pills were thrown out, they quickly burst into 3 crimson flames. The 3 flames formed a triangular formation and moved towards the Crystal Palace cultivator who was fighting Liao Ruinjia. Intentional Battle Pill. Moreover, it was a high-grade intentional battle pill that connected a type of flame magic power into the pill. If these 3 intentional battle pills were made by Liao Ruinjia, then Liao Ruinjia's alchemy skills were probably only one step away from becoming an alchemy grandmaster. Lu Ping and Tianqin Laozu's eyes were very sharp. They could see through Liao Ruinjia's cultivation level at a glance. Although the intentional battle pill could refine a type of magic power or secret technique of an alchemy master into a pill, when the magic power in the intentional battle pill was activated by the cultivator, its power would be greatly reduced because it was no longer controlled by the cultivator's spiritual sense. It was only about half of the original magic power. It was like a talisman treasure. The talisman treasure made by a core forging stage cultivator could only be given to a blood condensation stage disciple to save his life. For a core forging stage cultivator, the talisman treasure was extremely useless. This also caused the value of the intentional battle pill to be greatly reduced. It was even in danger of being lost in the alchemy world. Even Lu Ping had never tried refining a magic power into an intentional battle pill. Just as Lu Ping was carefully observing the 3 flames that rushed towards the Crystal Palace cultivator with Liao Ruinjia, 2 golden rays of light suddenly appeared in the sky outside the valley. Sound transmission sword. Not good. Tianqin Laozu's voice sounded in Lu Ping's ears. When Lu Ping turned around, Tianqin Laozu was no longer beside him. Chapter 550. 2 sound-transmitting magic swords instantly reached the hands of the leading cultivator of the Crystal Palace and the leading cultivator of the Lu family, Lu Runjian. Although the 2 were fighting, they did not dare to neglect the contents of the jade slips. They both used their spiritual senses to check the contents. Then, their expressions changed greatly. The leading cultivator from Water Crystal Palace could no longer care about the Lu clan cultivator who was already on the verge of death. He hurriedly shouted, "All junior brothers, gather here quickly." Lu Runjian also hurriedly said, "Retreat, quickly retreat to me." However, as soon as the 2 of them shouted, one of the Lu family cultivators was besieged by 2 cultivators from Water Crystal Palace, leaving him on the verge of death. Hearing the shout from the Water Crystal Palace cultivator, one of the cultivators from Water Crystal Palace swiftly rushed forward. As for the other cultivator, he paused for a moment. Next, he raised the magic treasure in his hand, wanting to finish off the Lu family cultivator first. However, just as the cultivator raised the magic weapon in his hand, his eyes were suddenly filled with a golden flame. The cultivator of the Crystal Palace seemed to hear the exclamation of his fellow cultivator behind him. However, he only felt a sudden heat in his body, and then he lost consciousness. The cultivator of the Crystal Palace was gathering his fellow disciples. A golden light flashed in the corner of his eyes. Years of life and death experience gave him a keen premonition. He subconsciously opened his mouth to warn the direction where the light disappeared. However, what appeared in the eyes of the cultivator was a golden flame that disappeared in a flash. A fellow disciple who was swallowed by the flame was turned into flying ash. What a domineering flame! A look of fear flashed across the cultivator's face. After the death of his fellow disciple, the unconscious Lu family cultivator also turned into flying ash. The 2 storage magic weapons fell into a flashing humanoid flame. Then the humanoid flame seemed to be extinguished and disappeared in front of everyone. However, before everyone could blink, the humanoid flame that had disappeared suddenly appeared in front of another injured Liu family cultivator. There was a look of despair on the Liu family cultivator's face. However, in the face of death, he unleashed an unprecedented display of ferocity. He hurled out a high-grade pill furnace from his storage artifact, which smashed towards the humanoid golden flame. Furnace explosion? The humanoid golden flame let out a disdainful chuckle, but it did not slow down at all. Its left hand shot out a clump of golden flames, which flew towards the Liu family cultivator. At the same time, its right hand shot out to catch the pill furnace that was hurtling towards it. There were actually two explanations for furnace explosion. One was when the alchemist was in the process of alchemy. Due to various reasons such as insufficient alchemy skills, the elixir in the pill furnace collapsed in the furnace. The other was to directly explode the pill furnace and use the power of the explosion to kill the enemy and protect oneself. This was a desperate move of the alchemist on the verge of death. It should not be used lightly unless it was a last resort. The golden humanoid flame was naturally Lyra Laozu, who was possessed by flames. When Lyra Laozu saw the high-grade pill furnace smashing toward her, she immediately changed her mind. Since the Liu family cultivator wanted to destroy this high-grade pill furnace, she might as well give it to Lyra Laozu herself. She flicked out a flame and melted the seriously injured cultivator of Liu family who had hurriedly summoned a defensive magical artifact. Before he had the time to prop up his protective upstanding chi, the golden flame suddenly exploded and engulfed his whole body. And the alchemy furnace in Lyra Laozu's right hand was surrounded by a small firebird, as if it was dancing. Just a moment later, the alchemy furnace that was originally on the verge of collapse was restored by Lyra Laozu's hands again, but there was a not very obvious crack on the mouth of the alchemy furnace. After going back, she would ask a forging master to repair it, and the whole thing would be a brand new high-grade alchemy furnace. When Lyra Laozu changed her mind, the flickering figure suddenly stopped. The Crystal Palace and the Liu family cultivators seized the opportunity to gather together. The Crystal Palace cultivators quickly gathered the remaining junior brothers together to form a Dao soldier formation. The leading cultivator said in a low voice, "Everyone, guard your positions. Once the Dharma Realm cultivator sneaks into the secret island attacks, we only need to hold him back. When the other Dharma Realm uncles arrive, it will be the time of that person's death." After Lu Runjian gathered the only 5 or 6 family cultivators, he did not wait for reinforcements like the Crystal Palace, but quickly fled out of the valley. Their strength was not as good as that of the Crystal Palace, and it was unknown whether they could escape the strong attack of the mysterious flame cultivator. Therefore, they had to try their best to meet with the Liu family's Dharma Laozu before the flame cultivator caught up. However, to everyone's surprise, the cultivator with golden flames never appeared in the valley again. He also did not go after the cultivators from the Liu family. At the edge of the secret island, Liu Ping followed Lyra Laozu out of the island. "Uncle, we sneaked into this secret island, and those Dharma Realm cultivators already knew. Why did the cultivators of the Crystal Palace and the Liu family only remind their disciples now?" Liu Ping asked with some puzzlement. Lyra Laozu's speed was not slow at all, and at the same time, her divine thoughts were carefully searching in all directions. She said, "Before the battle, there was no time to inform them. Now that the swords have appeared, it means that the Dharma Realm cultivators of each sect have already decided the winner or the loser, or reached some kind of compromise. If I don't take action now, once the disciples of each sect meet with the Dharma Realm cultivators, I will no longer have a chance to take action, and may even be surrounded by the cultivators of each sect." Unfortunately, in the end, we still did not figure out the purpose of these cultivators in this secret island. Lyra Laozu waved the 3 storage instruments in her hand and said, "Anyway, these are the storage instruments of 3 late core forging realm cultivators. The Crystal Palace and the Liu family are both rich. I believe that the harvest will not be small. Maybe from these 3 storage instruments, we can find some clues about the purpose of the 4 sects entering the secret island." In a small island outside the secret island, Lyra Laozu and Liu Ping sat on the ground, looking at the treasures that were found in the storage instruments of the 3 late core forging realm cultivators. They could not help but sigh that the cultivators from the East Sea and the central mainland were really rich. Nephew Lu, if it wasn't for your map, we would not have come here. You can take half of these things. Although there were not many things that Lyra Laozu could use, but for a core forging realm cultivator, it was a very rich treasure. Lu Ping shook his head and said, if we found some treasures on the island, or some heavenly treasures, even if Uncle didn't ask, this disciple would still ask for it. But these people died in the hands of Uncle. This disciple didn't do much. These things are Uncle's spoils of war. This disciple can't take them. Lyra Laozu chuckled and said, you really have the same bad temper as Lu Tianling. Lyra Laozu waved her hand and picked up a high-grade Earth-step spirit item, 2 middle-grade Earth-step spirit items, and a low-grade Earth-step spirit item. Then she picked up more than 403,000-year spirit grass and 2,000,000-year spirit grass. She also picked up 7 or 8 top-grade spirit stones. Then she picked up a few more things and pointed to the remaining things and said, the rest is for you. Lu Ping smiled and said, I don't dare to refuse an elder's gift. This disciple won't be polite. Lu Ping waved his hand and picked up the 2 mystic-level spirit items on the ground. In addition, there were 4 strange things, and the rest of the spirit grass and 5 or 600 top-grade spirit stones. The mystic-level spirit items were fine, but the 4 strange things were of some use to Lu Ping. Because the 7 Treasure Thunder Gourd received Yuan's Great Divine Lightning spell, the 7 Treasure Thunder Gourd gained a broken and illusory rune. Lu Ping also had some ideas about condensing the 7 Treasure Thunder Gourd into a spiritual treasure and upgrading it to a spiritual treasure. So Lu Ping must prepare some heaven and earth oddities, because a large part of the 7 Treasure Thunder Gourd's power came from smelting heaven and earth oddities of various attributes. 5 or 600 top-grade spirit stones could be regarded as charcoal in snowy weather, but what made Lu Ping and Lyra Laozu happy was the information about the Lu clan's inherited alchemy techniques collected from the 2 Lu clan cultivators. Although this content was only superficial, but Lu Ping and Lyra Laozu were both experts in alchemy, so they could learn from it. This was a supplement and improvement for the 2's alchemy techniques. Not to mention, these jade slips also recorded some of the Central Earth Lu clan's spirit grass growth habits, cultivation methods, and other aspects, which were quite unique. Unfortunately, the 2 of them did not find any clues about the secret island in these jade slips. Lu Ping thought for a moment and said, that Pang Shiwan got the map from the Lu clan. So the Lu clan must have known the location of this secret island in advance. After Pang Shiwan got the map, he came to the North Sea from the East Sea, so he must first inform the Crystal Palace of the contents of the map. The Fallen Archipelago has been opened several times. Although the Crystal Palace didn't find the secret island, they must have a good understanding of the distribution of the islands, so it was not difficult for the Crystal Palace to quickly find this place. As for Daoxian of Xinling sect, I'm afraid he just came with the Crystal Palace. Only the Yuan clan. I don't know whether they just got the news about the secret island, or they knew it long ago. Tianqin Laozu carefully looked at the map for a moment, and then said, although the place where the 4 sects fought was in the center of the secret island, it was actually not in the position indicated on the map. It was still hundreds of feet away. Lu Ping took the map and looked at it in surprise. He found that it was as Tianqin Laozu said. Lu Ping's mind suddenly became active, and he said, there are 2 practitioners at the late core forging realm in the Lu clan, and 1 in the Crystal Palace. A total of 3 practitioners who were likely to enter the Dharma manifestation stage in the future died in the hands of Uncle Master. But after half a day, there was no movement in the secret island. Could it be that the 2 jade slips were not only to remind the disciples to be on guard against Uncle Master, but also to summon people to enter the center of the island? Yes or no? We'll know after we go and see. Tianqin Laozu got up and walked out of the cave. Lu Ping quickly got up and followed. Chapter 551. What did the death of a late core forging adept mean to a sect? In Zhenling, Zhenren Xianxin was ambushed by the Demon Clan and was seriously injured. His cultivation almost collapsed. Starting from Tianlu Laozu, all the alchemists in Zhenling gathered at the Elixir Pavilion to discuss the possibility of curing Zhenren Xianxin. After the death of Li Xianin, Zhenling almost sent out all the sections. If it weren't for Aou who saw the opportunity early and hid in the deep-sea demon region, and Xianling sect who was seriously injured because of Dao Shi Laozu, who knew how much blood would have been stirred up in the North Sea cultivation world by Zhenling. Then what about the death of 3 late core forging adepts? The death of 3 late core forging adepts, especially the death of 3 adepts who had a 7th grade golden core and had broken through to the Dharma stage, was a very serious loss even for famous sects like the Crystal Palace and the Yuan family. Moreover, for a sect like the Crystal Palace, which was extremely powerful in the overseas cultivation world, after their disciple was killed, the Dharma adepts in the sect actually did not care about it. How could this not make Tianqin Laozu and Lu Ping feel strange? Unless there were more important things that made the Crystal Palace too busy to take revenge for their disciple. Lu Ping followed behind Tianqin Laozu and said worriedly, "Uncle, if the 4 sects really reached a compromise with each other, won't we be entering the wolf's den if we go now?" Tianqin Laozu said without looking back, "Let's forget about the others, but Xianling sect is also in it." Lu Ping did not say anything but followed behind Tianqin Laozu and sneaked into the secret island again. What could attract the attention of the Crystal Palace, the Yuan family, and the Lu family was naturally a famous treasure in the entire cultivation world. This time, with the help of the Crystal Palace, Xianling sect could actually participate in the game of the famous sects in the cultivation world. This in itself was a huge promotion of the sect status, ahead of Zhenling. Based on Xianling sect's recent activities in the North Sea, with the support of ancestor Yuan Guang, 2 more Xianling sect disciples had formed their 7th grade gold core after Feng Shutao. Furthermore, according to Xianling sect's information, 4 to 5 other disciples had also stepped into the 9th layer core forging realm and were preparing to form high-grade gold cores. Although Xianling sect had put in a lot of effort, it could not compare to Xianling sect, who ate the leftovers from the Crystal Palace. Therefore, Tianqin Laozu must try his best to participate in the secret of the secret island. Even if in the end, he would not get anything, he must find out what secrets were hidden on the secret island. When the 2 carefully returned to the place where the Dharma adepts of the various sects fought with Laozu, the place had long become silent except for the mess. The Dharma adepts who had fought previously had long disappeared. Lu Ping followed behind Tianqin Laozu and could not help but worry. "Uncle Master, do we still move forward according to the location marked on the map?" Tianqin Laozu did not directly answer Lu Ping's question, but instead asked, "Do you now feel that the concentration of the poisonous fog around us is increasing?" Lu Ping was stunned when he heard this. He carefully used his divine thoughts to explore around him and found that the concentration of the poisonous fog around him had increased again after entering the secret island. Lu Ping's face was a little ugly, and he said, "Uncle Master, is it the time for the fallen islands to close?" Tianqin Laozu was also a little hesitant and said, "If we go forward a little more, we will know whether it is or not." Lu Ping followed Tianqin Laozu and sneaked forward for dozens of feet again. As soon as Lu Ping released his divine thoughts, his face showed a painful expression, and the 1,000 poison meteorite energy gang around his body suddenly shone with a golden light, and then the pain was relieved. At this time, Tianqin Laozu's face was also a little ugly. Obviously, when his divine thoughts overflowed, he also suffered a loss, but there was a trace of joy in his eyes. Lu Ping took a breath of cold air and said, "Uncle Master, the concentration of the poisonous fog around us has indeed increased, and the increase is extremely intense. My divine thoughts were almost corroded when I just came out of my body." The Sky Zither ancestor laughed. "This also means that it is not time for the fallen archipelago to close. Instead, it is because this place has naturally gathered an extremely dense poisonous mist. Before the fallen archipelago closes, although the density of the poisonous mist has increased, it is not increased by such a terrifying amount. Otherwise, I'm afraid that not many cultivators have been able to escape." As the 2 continued to move forward, the corrosion of the surrounding poisonous fog on Lu Ping's protective aura became more and more serious. Lu Ping's body's true essence was like flowing water, pouring from his blood into the protective aura. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Ping had merged with the blood of 12 kinds of poisonous beasts in the Fallen Islands, which pushed Lu Ping's cultivation all the way to the peak of the 5th level of the core forging realm, and the accumulation of the true essence in his body was once again improved, and there was Lao Tzu, who was at the Dharma manifestation stage. Next to him, Lu Ping had already left the central area of the secret island. After a while, Tianqin Laozu suddenly turned his head and said, "My divine thoughts can't go out of my body. The poisonous fog around us is extremely dense. Now we can only rely on our eyes to observe the situation around us." Lu Ping nodded and did not speak. The two of them had already come this far. If they turned back, all their previous efforts would be in vain. Both of them were cultivators with a strong sense of purpose, and there was no reason for them to turn back midway. After walking for a distance of a few dozen feet, the intensity of the poisonous fog seemed to have reached its limit, and then it stopped increasing. However, the myriad poison meteorite gang around Lu Ping's body became brighter and brighter, causing Tianqin Laozu to look back at Lu Ping's aura frequently. The reason for this was because the dense poisonous fog forced Lu Ping to inject a large amount of true essence into the aura, which made the myriad poison meteorite gang shine even brighter. In addition, when the myriad meteoric poison body was resisting the invasion of the poisonous gas, it was also refining the toxins in the poisonous gas into the myriad meteoric poison body at an extremely slow speed, causing the myriad meteoric poison body to strengthen at an extremely slow speed. This also caused the myriad meteoric poison body to always be at its peak, without any signs of weakening. Previously, when they were in the periphery of the fallen Great Archipelago, Lu Ping's myriad poison meteorite gang had already reached its limit in refining the poisonous fog. Now that they encountered a poisonous fog that was even more toxic, and Lu Ping's own cultivation had also improved significantly, he once again began to absorb and refine the poisonous fog. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. Previously, Lu Ping thought that the myriad poison meteorite gang had stopped refining the poisonous fog because of his cultivation. Now, it seemed that the myriad poison meteorite gang had adapted to the poisonous fog in the periphery. Now that it encountered a poisonous fog that was even more toxic, the myriad poison meteorite gang began to refine and advance again. Since this was the case, could it be that the Black Prison Poison Fire and Myriad Wonder Dew also stopped advancing because of this situation? As Lu Ping thought of this, his heart could not help but beat fiercely. Lu Ping had seen the power of the Black Prison Poison Fire before. It melted the protective aura of a core forging stage cultivator. Although the cultivator's cultivation and state at that time were at the bottom of the core forging stage, he was still a core forging stage cultivator. At the very least, the Black Prison Poison Fire from before did not have this kind of power. If it evolved again in this environment of dense poisonous fog, would its power become even more tyrannical? However, these were all minor details. What was more important was that in Lu Ping's golden house, there was a large portion of Myriad Wonder Dew hidden in the myriad poison meteorite liquid. If it could be refined again and grow. However, this kind of excitement could only be suppressed in his heart. Not to mention the environment here. Once the Black Prison Poison Fire and Myriad Wonder Dew were taken out, it would definitely cause a violent turbulence in the poisonous fog, which would then attract the attention of the Dharma manifestation stage cultivators who had already entered the thick poisonous fog. Of course, Lu Ping himself was not stupid enough to expose his trump card in front of others, even if it was a senior martial uncle of his sect. After all, it was the Myriad Wonder Dew. As they walked closer to the center of the island marked on the map, although the density of the poisonous fog had reached its limit, their vision became more and more blurred. Lu Ping and Tianqin Laozu both tried their best to use the magical powers in their eyes to look into the depths of the poisonous fog, trying to find some clues. Just as Tianqin Laozu was about to step forward, Lu Ping suddenly grabbed Tianqin Laozu's sleeve. Tianqin Laozu was very alert. Her footsteps suddenly stopped in midair. When she looked back at Lu Ping, she saw Lu Ping pointing to his feet. Tianqin Laozu immediately understood. Without asking the reason, she followed behind Lu Ping and tiptoed to the center of the island. After a while, the blue light in Lu Ping's eyes disappeared, and he breathed a sigh of relief and said, "That was close. I didn't expect that these cultivators who entered the secret plane before actually arranged an early warning array on the ground. With the help of the poisonous fog to corrode the divine sense and block the vision, we almost fell into their trap." Tianqin Laozu smiled and said, This shows that the other party can't detect the abnormal situation within a certain distance and can only rely on the warning power of the formation. However, the three pure true pupils really has a natural advantage in seeing through the illusion of the formation. I have also looked under my feet before, but I didn't notice the early warning array under my feet. Lu Ping smiled and said, "You flatter me, Junior Martial Uncle. If we're talking about seeing further in this poisonous fog, it's all thanks to Junior Martial Uncle's eye technique. That's the only way we'll be able to detect and avoid enemies." After changing direction again to avoid a few early warning arrays under their feet, Tian Qin Laozu's footsteps suddenly stopped. Lu Ping's expression behind him also suddenly became dignified. Although he couldn't see what Tian Qin Laozu found, he also knew that at this time Tian Qin Laozu was afraid that he had already discovered the other cultivators who entered the secret realm. Tian Qin Laozu slowly took Lu Ping around the center of the secret plane, just like Lu Ping took Tian Qin Laozu to bypass the early warning array under their feet. At this moment, Tian Qin Laozu stopped again, and at the same time seemed to listen to something. When Lu Ping saw this, he also used a clairaudient technique, and a slight voice came from about 100 feet in front of him. "Brother Lu, do you know who the Dharma adept who killed your family's disciple is?" Chapter 552. Brother Lu, do you know who the Dharma adept who killed a disciple of your clan is? Lu Ping could tell that the person who asked the question was the mid-Dharma adept of the Yuan clan, Yuan Luo, whom Lu Ping had met earlier. A deep voice rang out, and there was a hint of anger and murderous intent in it. He said, "Humph, based on the information I received from my cousin Runjian, the person who came should only be an early Dharma adept. She uses a rather powerful golden flame that can turn her entire body into flames. However, it seems that this person is a female adept." Yuan Luo's voice rang out again, and she said, "To be able to kill a late core forging adept from the Crystal Palace with a single blow, this level of ability is not considered weak among early Dharma adepts. Brother Lu's clan is a well-known alchemy clan in the world of practitioners, and you have seen countless types of flame spells. I wonder if Brother Lu has any insight into this golden flame?" As if pondering something, after a while, the deep voice rang out again, saying, "Based on the power of that person's flame spell, a Dharma adept would naturally not be able to use an earth-level spiritual fire. As such, among the heaven-level spiritual fires, there are not many types that are golden in color. There is one type of low-grade heaven-level golden flame, and another type is the golden crow fire. Among the mid-grade heaven-level spiritual fires, there is a fire seed called the sun-treasured flame, which is also golden in color." As Lu Ping listened to the Lu clan Dharma adept in front of him introduce the various types of golden flames, he also secretly observed Lyra Laozu's expression. Lu Ping himself was very curious about Lyra Laozu's golden flame spell. However, Tianqin Laozu's expression did not change in the slightest, as if the conversation between the two mid-Dharma adepts in front of him had nothing to do with him. Actually, there's another type of heaven and earth spirit fire called the seven-colored flame. The Lu family's Dharma idol, Laozu, thought for a moment and continued, "In the cultivation world, legend has it that there's an extremely special cultivation method that can use heaven and earth spirit fire to artificially synthesize new and higher-grade heaven and earth spirit fire. This kind of flame starts from a profound grade spirit fire and chooses a type of spirit fire as its seed. Then, as one's cultivation increases, new and higher grade spirit fires will gradually be added to increase the grade of the spirit fire seed that cultivators smelt. This kind of flame will gradually change color as its grade increases. When a cultivator advances to the Dharma stage, the color of the flame will change 7 times. Yuan Luo said in surprise, "I've heard of the 7-colored flame, but I didn't know that there was such a saying." It seems that the Lu family, the most famous alchemy family in the Central Plains, indeed has an understanding of heaven and earth spirit fire that is difficult for ordinary people to surpass. The Lu family's Dharma Laozu hesitated for a moment before saying, "The advancement of the 7-colored flame is also different. After smelting the 7th type of flame, if a 7th-grade golden elixir is formed, the color of the flame will eventually become purple. Also, according to the quality of the golden elixir, the color of the flame will vary." At this time, Yuan Luo had also heard the meaning behind Lao Tzu's words and could not help but ask in a low voice, golden yellow flames and not purple flames. It seems that this cultivator's golden elixir is probably above the 7th grade? The Lu family's Lao Tzu nodded and said, that's right. In the Lu family's ancient records, if a cultivator's golden elixir has just reached the 8th grade, then the color of the flame will most likely be golden yellow, or bright red like blood. Then what if the cultivator is finally able to smelt a high-grade heaven-level spirit fire? Yuan Luo looked a little curious and asked in a probing manner, I don't know about this either. At least in the world of practice, I've never heard of any cultivator who can finally condense a high-grade heaven-level spirit fire. The Lu family's Lao Tzu said with some regret, to kill a late core forging adept from the Crystal Palace with one blow, it seems that an early Dharma adept of this level must have condensed a golden elixir above the 8th grade before advancing to the Dharma stage. Yuan Luo's face was a little solemn. An adept who had condensed an 8th grade golden elixir and advanced to the early Dharma stage was not comparable to an adept who had condensed a 7th grade golden elixir and advanced to the Dharma stage. After thinking for a while, she said, if that's the case, then the heaven and earth spirit fire that this cultivator smelted is most likely the precious sun flame, or this 7-colored flame. That should be the case, but I think the possibility of it being the 7-colored flame is higher. The Lu family's Lao Tzu hesitated for a while. Seeing that Yuan Luo's face was full of confusion, he said, to transform one's body into flames, this is a level of power that can only be achieved by mastering the control of flames to an extremely high level. The precious sun flame is explosive in nature, and the cultivator herself is a woman. For the precious sun flame, it is somewhat inappropriate. What's more, very few practitioners in the early Dharma stage can reach the level of transforming their body into flames. At least after the practitioner's cultivation has reached the middle Dharma stage, the inner yuan and physical strength of the body have reached a whole new level, then it is possible to withstand the possible side effects of transforming one's body into flames. But the 7-colored flame is different. This kind of flame is cultivated by the practitioner from the profound stage, and it is smelted step by step. The practitioner's control of the fire has already reached a level where they can do whatever they want. In addition, the 7-colored flame is relatively mild, and it is an excellent flame for refining elixirs and medicines. Therefore, if the Dharma stage female practitioner is really in the early Dharma stage, then this female practitioner is very likely to use the 7-colored flame, and this female practitioner is also very likely to be an alchemist. Brother Lu is really knowledgeable. Luo is very impressed. You are indeed one of the 3 most outstanding alchemist grandmasters of the Lu family. It's a pity that this trip to the secret island involved the Crystal Palace and a small North Sea sect called Xianling sect. Some of the places were taken away for no reason, and they also occupied several entrances to the secret island where the treasures of heaven and earth are relatively dense. Yuan Luo seemed to be a little unsatisfied and continued. It's a pity that the practitioners of your family were attacked by the Crystal Palace and several people died. Otherwise, in the past, only the practitioners of the core forging stage of your family and my family entered the secret island, and there were enough treasures of heaven and earth for you and my family to collect. Now I'm afraid that the treasures in the secret island are a little stretched. Lao Tzu of the Lu family snorted coldly and said, the Crystal Palace has always been domineering overseas. Do they really think that our Lu family is easy to bully? It's fine overseas. Our Lu family thinks that we can't beat them, but the Crystal Palace has taken advantage of the chaos of the central mainland these years and actually began to infiltrate into the central mainland. Our Lu family will always make the Crystal Palace pay the price. Yuan Luo laughed and said, after all, the central mainland is our world. If the Crystal Palace wants to get a piece of the cake, it will inevitably provoke the whole cultivation world of the central mainland against the common enemy. After all, until now, the 5 giant sects of the central mainland have not expressed their position on the matter of the Crystal Palace. However, this time Tianyue sect and the emerging Xiaoyao sect of the EC have formed an alliance. They also need the Xiaoyao sect to contain the Crystal Palace and delay their pace of entering the central mainland. After all, when the Crystal Palace enters the central mainland, the first to bear the brunt is the Tianyue sect, which is established on the coastal coast. When Tianqin Laozu heard this, he suddenly turned and walked to the other side. Lu Ping did not dare to neglect and hurriedly followed. Walking to a place where there was no one, Tianqin Laozu suddenly said, since the two people said that the secret place is full of treasures, but these two Dharma adepts can only stay outside the secret place, I am afraid that there are some restrictions on entering the secret place. Only core forging adepts can enter. Lu Ping understood the meaning behind his words, but he was indeed eager to enter this secret place, so he volunteered and said, obviously, there is more than one entrance to this secret place. Otherwise, there wouldn't be only two people here just now. This disciple is actually quite interested in the secret place that the two of them mentioned. I want to go in and explore it. Tianqin Laozu looked back at Lu Ping and said, Nephew Lu, I really hope that you can go in, even if you do not gain anything in it. As long as you destroy the plan of the Xinling sect adepts who enter the secret place, it will be fine. But this time, the adepts who enter the secret place are obviously at the late core forging stage. Even if your strength is not weaker than an ordinary 7th level core forging stage cultivator, but if you are alone, you will be in danger of dying at any time. Lu Ping smiled and said, Of course I know, but in my opinion, the disciples of the four sects don't know each other very well. I also have a treasure that can conceal my cultivation base, so it's hard for others to see through my cultivation base. Even if someone sees me, they'll think I'm just a disciple from the other 3 sections. So, I don't think I'll be in much danger. Tianqin Laozu seemed to suddenly think of something and opened the void. After rummaging through the storage space for a moment, he handed a blue mask to Lu Ping and said, This mask is called Face Changing, and it can change your appearance at any time. Unfortunately, it does not have much effect on the detection of divine will. You can take it and use it, as long as no one deliberately checks your details, so your appearance will not be known. Lu Ping took the mask and could not put it down. He originally had a mask in his hand that was given to him by Zhenren Chao, but with the growth of his cultivation and the improvement of the level of the adepts he faced, that mask had long been useless. However, the mask that Tianqin Laozu gave him now was much more advanced than the previous one. The two cooperated with each other, and finally with the map as the center, they circled around to a place where no Dharma adepts were paying attention. Tianqin Laozu and Lu Ping carefully walked forward, but Tianqin Laozu's figure suddenly stopped, as if he had hit something, and he actually took 2 steps back, which shocked Lu Ping, who was behind him. Tianqin Laozu, who had taken 2 steps back, took 2 steps forward and reached forward, as if he had touched some kind of barrier. The two of them, whether Lu Ping used the 3 pure eyes or overflowed divine will, could not find this barrier. Tianqin Laozu turned to Lu Ping and said, It seems that this is the boundary between the secret island and the secret place. This invisible barrier even blocks me outside. You can go forward and try to see if you can pass through this barrier. Lu Ping put the mask on his face, and Lu Ping immediately turned into a dark-faced, dignified cultivator and walked forward. In Tianqin Laozu's view, Lu Ping seemed to have hit into the void and suddenly disappeared in front of him. Tianqin Laozu's face changed for a moment and finally sighed. From the place where Lu Ping disappeared, he set up some traps for early warning and then found a more secret place nearby and began to quietly wait for the return of Lu Ping. Lu Ping, who had crashed into the secret plane, felt his feet stagger, and it was not easy to stop his body. Looking up, Lu Ping's eyes suddenly widened, and his face was full of disbelief. Chapter 553. Lu Ping felt as if he had entered a fairyland. Just as Lu Ping entered the secret area, the dense spiritual energy of heaven and earth enveloped Lu Ping's entire body. The dense spiritual energy in the distance was like bees smelling the fragrance of flowers, rushing towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping hurriedly released his divine sense to check the situation around him. Then, a golden light shone from his chest and reflected on the ground in front of Lu Ping. Samling, Wanyu, Lu Qiner, Lu Dague, and the ignorant Debao had just come out. Lu Ping had already sat on the ground and started a deep level of cultivation. Lu Ping's body was like a bottomless abyss at this moment. Lu Ping's body was like a bottomless abyss. All the spiritual energy in the surroundings was absorbed by him. Samling had just broken through to the second stage of the core forging realm. Luan Yu had just advanced to the middle stage of the core forging realm. Lu Qin'er was still consolidating her foundation after swallowing the heart-forging pill, and Lu Dagui's cultivation was far from the point of advancement. Therefore, after these people were released from the Golden House by Lu Ping, although the dense spiritual energy of heaven and earth made everyone have a desire to cultivate, most of them had just advanced their cultivation, so it was impossible for them to make much progress in a short period of time. Moreover, these people were clear about the reason why Lu Ping released them. Luan Yu said in a low voice, "Everyone, be on guard. If you encounter a strong enemy, warn them and retreat." The cultivators who entered this secret area are the elite late-stage core forging realm cultivators of the Central Mainland and the Crystal Palace. Even if they encounter a cultivator of the Transcendence realm, they can still put up a fight. Other than Lu Ping, none of us are a match for these people. Therefore, our task is not to stop the enemy, but to warn them. As soon as Luan Yu's voice fell, the demons were about to disperse when they heard a bang. When everyone turned to look, they saw that Dabeo had fallen to the ground as if he was drunk. Just as he was about to stand up, his head tilted back and he actually fell asleep on the ground. Luan Yu walked 2 steps forward, walked in front of Dabeo, and bent down to check. Her face revealed an expression of, as expected, and she said, "This guy's opportunity has come. It's time for him to break through to the core forging realm." Luan Yu took out a yellow bead from her storage magic tool and stuffed it into Dabeo's mouth. This earth yellow bead was an earth elemental golden core Lu Ping obtained from the 2 Lu clan cultivators he killed by old ancestor Tianqin. Although there weren't many earth elemental cultivators and cultivation methods in the overseas cultivation world, there were many of them in the Middle Earth. Not to mention, it was only a first-layer core forging realm monster's golden core. The Lu clan cultivators who owned the golden core might have forgotten about the existence of such a golden core in their interspatial mystic instrument. When Lu Ping found the golden core, it was placed together with hundreds of high-grade spirit stones. Lu Ping handed the golden core to Luan Yu for safekeeping because he hoped that in the House of Gold, there would be someone who could urge Dabeo to work hard in his cultivation. Dabeo was originally a low-level demonic beast, the spirit-seeking mouse. Normally, it would only be a demonic beast in the blood-refining realm. However, ever since it started following Lu Ping, with Lu Ping's full support, Dabeo managed to advance to the peak of the blood condensation realm in one go with all kinds of miraculous pills. Dabeo was lazy and loved to take shortcuts. However, advancing to the core forging realm was not something that could be taken easily. Due to Dabeo's low aptitude, his cultivation stagnated for several years, and he became the weakest demonic beast in Lu Ping's possession. Because of this, Lu Ping handed the golden core to Luan Yu and asked him to supervise Dabeo's cultivation in the House of Gold, so that Dabeo could advance to the core forging realm as soon as possible. However, no one expected that right after Lu Ping found a core forging realm demonic beast with an earth attribute tiger bloodline, Dabeo would immediately obtain the opportunity to advance to the core forging realm. It had to be said that Dabeo was indeed a lucky general. When Dabeo was ready for everything, the east wind also arrived. Just like that, the man and the mouse sat on the ground and circulated their cultivation techniques with all their might, absorbing the heaven and earth spiritual chi into their bodies and refining it into their bloodlines. Then, they condensed it into drops of bloodline essence and gathered it into the space in the heart core. Lu Ping didn't expect that the opportunity to advance to the core forging realm would come so quickly. Thanks to the solid foundation that Lu Ping had laid over the years, Lu Ping's cultivation progress was not as rapid as before, but it was still steady. However, in the 2 months since he entered the Fallen Archipelago, Lu Ping had swallowed and refined the blood of 12 poisonous beasts, strengthening his own bloodline to the extreme. Every time Lu Ping refined a poisonous beast's bloodline, Lu Ping's cultivation foundation would become more solid, and his cultivation would also improve steadily. After all the 12 bloodlines were swallowed and assimilated by Lu Ping's own bloodline, Lu Ping's cultivation progress, which he thought would take many years to achieve, actually advanced to the core forging realm in just 2 months. He was only 1 step away from breaking through to the core forging realm. According to the records of the Wood Luan clan, Perhaps only when Fa Xiang Laozu's bloodline was purified to the extreme could such a bloodline pressure appear. An ordinary core forging cultivator facing this kind of bloodline pressure simply didn't need to fight at all. They would be innately weakened. But this is also good. This secret plane is full of late core forging realm cultivators. After he made such a scene, I am afraid that many people here have already broken through to the Dharma manifestation stage. I believe that there will be no blind cultivators who dare to come here. In fact, it was just as Luan Yu had expected. Samling looked at the young cultivator who looked to be about the same age as Lu Ping in the distance. He was secretly nervous. Although Samling had not fought with this person before, he had seen this person's strength in the Golden House. Even Lu Ping had almost suffered a great loss at his hands. Samling didn't know if he would be able to escape from this young cultivator after he sent out the warning signal. But at this time, he couldn't care too much. This young man seemed to know this place very well, and he walked directly in the direction where Lu Ping was cultivating. At this time, it was too late for Samling to retreat. Just as Samling was about to warn everyone and fight to the death to stop this person, behind Samling, Lu Ping was cultivating. An incomparable bloodline pressure suddenly erupted in all directions. The bloodline essence condensed in Samling's body was refined by Lu Ping's own bloodline and then given to Samling. Therefore, although Samling's heart felt heavy under this bloodline pressure, he still felt an unparalleled joy in his heart. Although the Yuan family discovered the secret island after the Lu family, the Yuan family's understanding of the secret island was no less than the Lu family's. This time, Yuan Feixiang entered the secret island and seized the opportunity to break through to the 8th level of core forging in one fell swoop. After that, he began to rush in the direction of the secret island according to the records passed down in the family, trying to find an extremely rare spirit fruit. However, just as Yuan Feixiang was about to reach the area where this spirit fruit grew, a soaring bloodline pressure shocked Yuan Feixiang. Was someone breaking through to the Dharma phase? Who had such good luck? Yuan Feixiang knew that this secret island was a place that was helpful for cultivators to break through bottlenecks. Originally, he was a little complacent for being able to break through to the 8th level of core forging so quickly and being the first to wake up from cultivation. He was sure that he would be able to get the most harvest in the secret island. However, he did not expect that the first kind of treasure he intended to collect would have to choose to give up because of this soaring bloodline pressure. After Yuan Feixiang's cultivation broke through to the 8th level of core forging, although his inner confidence was extremely inflated, it seemed that he did not even put a cultivator at the peak of core forging in his eyes. However, he was not arrogant enough to think that he could challenge a cultivator at the Dharma phase, so he wisely chose to give up. Samling looked at Yuan Feixiang, who had just retreated with a burst of fear in his heart. At this moment, a voice transmission suddenly appeared in Samling's ear. Samling was shocked at first, then happy. After coming out of his hiding place, he flew to the place where Lu Ping had previously cultivated. Chapter 554. The vision of heaven and earth slowly dissipated, and the tsunami of spiritual qi receded. Lu Ping slowly opened his eyes, and there was a hint of fear in his eyes. For an ordinary practitioner to forcefully break through to the next level of cultivation, the vast amount of spiritual qi entering their veins would cause their divine will to be unable to control it. Their training methods would not be able to convert the spiritual qi into inner yuan in time, and their veins would not be able to withstand the impact of the huge amount of spiritual qi. In the end, they would explode and die. If it were not for the fact that Lu Ping practiced the North Sea Wave listening technique, which was a rare and wonderful technique in the world of practice, and that Lu Ping's own cultivation base was unimaginably strong, and that his divine will was comparable to that of a peak core forging adept, with such a strong spiritual qi entering his body, Lu Ping's core space would have been broken and his cultivation would have been destroyed. Just as Lu Ping opened his eyes, the blood pressure that had previously been raging in all directions suddenly retreated and was retracted by Lu Ping. As the bloodline suppression dissipated, Lu Ping's divine sense spread out in all directions in the direction where the bloodline suppression had wreaked havoc. When he discovered Samling, Lu Ping's pupil shrank. A divine will that could confuse a peak core forging adept with an early Dharma adept did not hide its presence, but it was not ostentatious and overbearing as it approached Yuan Feixiang, who was gradually approaching Samling. Lu Ping's low-key warning made Yuan Feixiang a little confused, but the blood power that Lu Ping had just released had indeed reached the level that only Lao Zu, a Dharma adept, could achieve. Yuan Feixiang hesitated for a while, and her face gradually showed a look of dissatisfaction. But in the end, she did not want to become enemies with a potential Dharma adept because of a treasure, so she slowly retreated in another direction. Looking at Samling, who looked relieved but still confused, Lu Ping had an idea. He whispered something, and a wave of inner yuan came out of his throat. Following the guidance of his divine will, it reached Samling's ears in an instant. 1,000-mile voice transmission was an extremely common, but extremely difficult secret technique in the world of practice. It could be said to be ordinary, but anyone who had entered the blood refining realm, even the lowest level cultivator, could use this secret technique. However, this secret technique could only be used by a blood refining realm cultivator's mouth within a radius of 10 feet. Any further and the cultivator would not be able to use his arcane energy to bind his voice into a true essence sound line and transmit it into the cultivator's ears. In order to completely absorb the violent heaven and earth spiritual qi in the surroundings, a cultivator's cultivation must be at least at the late stage of core forging. Moreover, they must be an outstanding late-stage core forging cultivator. Only then would they be able to grasp the throbbing qi of true essence and use it to improve their own cultivation. After listening to Lu Ping's explanation, Wan Yu patted his chest with lingering fear and said, "Fortunately, we resisted the temptation to cultivate. Otherwise, we would have been killed without a trace. However, not only were you unscathed in this violent spiritual qi, but you also successfully advanced to the 6th layer of the core forging stage." At this time, Lu Qiner, Samling, and Lu Daguay had also returned. When Lu Qiner heard Lu Ping's words, she anxiously pointed at Debao on the ground and said, "Big brother, what should we do with Debao? Even core forging stage cultivators like us can't withstand such violent heaven and earth spiritual qi. So why is Debao still able to fall into a deep sleep?" Lu Ping smiled helplessly and said, "I have to say that this guy's luck is really good. We just found a golden core forging stage earth attribute tiger bloodline for him, and he ushered in the opportunity to break through. Although the bloodline that was prepared to be refined wasn't as good as the one in this golden core, it was enough for Debao's aptitude. However, he didn't get the opportunity to break through. However, if it weren't for the fact that he had fallen into a deep slumber right beside me and had walked out of the range of the spiritual qi around him, he would have most likely exploded into a cloud of blood, missed the moment he fell into a deep slumber." Luan Yu added with a smile, "The reason why Lu Ping didn't leave Debao's side and used the 1,000-mile sound transmission technique to summon us back was because he wanted to suppress the violent spiritual qi in the surroundings. Then, he and Debao could smoothly absorb and refine the spiritual qi and break through." When Lu Qiner saw Lu Ping smiling and nodding, she rolled her eyes at Luan Yu and said, "If you ask me, you're obviously very smart, aren't you?" Luan Yu smiled bitterly. She couldn't say a word after being scolded by Lu Qiner. At this moment, in the perception of everyone's spiritual qi, the spiritual qi that had been suppressed by Lu Ping suddenly became violent again. Everyone's complexion changed slightly, and they all looked at Debao, who was lying on the ground and sleeping. Lu Ping's hands formed a seal, and 12 finger-sized true essence balls suddenly appeared in Lu Ping's right hand. Lu Ping raised his right hand above his head, and the 12 true essence balls flew in different directions. Lu Ping softly shouted, "Calm the sea." The 12 true essence balls exploded, and the true essence that burst out turned into silk threads that connected with each other. With Debao as the center, the surging spiritual qi within a radius of 100 feet was once again suppressed. At the same time, the 12 true essence balls formed a simple array formation that unexpectedly sealed the spiritual qi that had appeared when Debao was about to break through to the core forging stage and transform. At this time, Debao had also reached the final moment of advancing to the core forging stage, and his entire body was wrapped in a yellow light. The yellow light gradually shrank and slowly transformed into a human shape. The yellow light shrank to a height similar to Luan Yu's height, but at this time, Debeo seemed to have some ideas in his mind. The rough outline of his head that was revealed by the yellow light began to look left and right. Everyone could see that Debeo's newly generated divine sense swept over everyone, as if he was hesitating about something. Finally, Debeo's divine sense locked onto Lu Dague's body, and the yellow light rapidly expanded. However, the originally rich light became thinner after Debeo's body expanded. Pooh! Because Debeo's swollen body expanded too much, the yellow light seemed to be unable to keep up. Like a punctured balloon, the yellow light shrank back to its original size. The yellow light squirmed for a while, and Debeo's newly generated divine sense once again probed. This time, it stared at Lu Ping's body. Among everyone, Lu Ping's body was second only to the tall and sturdy Lu Dague. Unfortunately, Debeo's hope was once again shattered, and the yellow light shrank back into a ball. At this moment, Wan Yu finally couldn't help but advise him. Debeo, even though we demons can adjust our figures and appearances after taking human form, it's still rather similar to our own innate talent and appearance. Don't blindly imitate the appearance of others and end up becoming neither. The yellow light trembled violently again. This time, Debeo's divine sense stared at Wan Yu's body. The yellow light expanded again, and in the middle of the light was a shining golden pellet. It was Debeo's newly formed gold core. This time, the light finally stabilized, and an earthen yellow humanoid appeared, roughly the same height as Luan Yu. The corner of Luan Yu's mouth twitched. He hadn't expected that his words would attract Debeo's attention, and he began to transform according to his appearance. Debeo seemed to be very satisfied this time, and immediately began to fill his monster transformation into the golden outline. Seeing that Debeo was about to completely transform, suddenly a playful voice shouted in panic, "Squeak! Not good, bad Squeak!" Originally, Debeo used his Zhen Yuan to transform the outline, but after Lu Ping transformed, this outline suddenly expanded by 2 feet. The original image of a handsome young master suddenly became a small head, smaller eyes, but a huge belly. Because of the increase of 2 feet in circumference, he suddenly became a fat boy of 17 or 18 years old. Lu Ping and the others looked at Debeo, who had successfully transformed into his human form, and laughed out loud. The chubby young man looked like he was about to cry, but the 2 black dots in his eyes were darting around. No one knew what he was thinking. Chapter 555. Debeo stood in the center with a dejected look on his face. Everyone looked at the transformed Debeo and burst into laughter. Debeo was so focused on comparing his appearance with the people around him that he forgot his own weight. Although Debeo was a rat demon, he was gluttonous and lazy. He had already grown to the size of a fat pig. He had a fat body, a short body, a small head, small eyes that flickered in all directions, and 2 thick white front teeth. This was the image of a rich young master that Debeo had transformed into. However, no matter how you looked at it, it felt awkward. Debeo was still carefully examining his transformed body to see if there was any possibility of improvement when he suddenly felt a pain under his nose. He couldn't help but cry out, "Ouch, Squeak, be gentle." When everyone looked again, they suddenly realized that Debeo had 2 long and sparse whiskers above his lips, which was very different from his appearance when he was 17 or 18 years old. At this moment, one of the 2 whiskers was firmly grasped in Lu Qiner's hand. Debeo was in so much pain that he bent over and cried out. He had no choice but to say carefully, "Sister Qiner, let go, let go. It's going to break, it's going to break." Lu Qiner said angrily, "Pang Bao, you're so arrogant. You actually fell asleep without a sound and made so many of us stand guard for you. Brother even had to help you suppress the explosive and fluctuating spiritual qi in the surroundings. Humph, brother is usually the most biased and has given you many good things. This time, you have to give us some compensation. Otherwise, humph, you know what will happen." Debeo struggled to break free from Lu Qiner's hand with great difficulty. He grimaced in pain and said, Sister Qiner, I swear to God, I didn't know that the spiritual qi here would be so thick. I was just careless and the magic power in my body began to circulate uncontrollably. When it comes to cultivation pills and whatnot, of course Debeo, have the most. But what kind of aptitude do you guys have? 1 day of cultivation for you is equivalent to 3 to 5 days of cultivation for me. You can break through to the core forging stage every time you take 100 bottles of pills, but I have to take 300 to 500 bottles. If Master didn't use so many pills on me, how could I, Debeo, reach the core forging stage? Lu Qiner rolled her big eyes and smirked. Fatty Bao, you're right. However, among the 4 of us, your cultivation is the lowest, but you are the richest. Secondly, you have successfully broken through to the core forging stage, so you have to express your gratitude. Otherwise, Debeo covered the storage bag at his waist vigilantly. He looked around and saw Samling walking toward Debeo with a smirk. Debeo was so scared that he hurried to hide behind Lu Ping. But suddenly, he bumped into a wall. Debeo had been with Lu Ping for the longest time, and he had made the most contributions for Lu Ping. However, Debeo was funny, and his cultivation was the lowest. Lu Ping's other spiritual pets always bullied him. Debeo had accumulated many things that Lu Ping didn't need, and the other spiritual pets often asked for money from Lu Ping. Lu Ping knew all this, but Lu Ping knew that although Debeo was stingy, he wasn't really stingy. Every time, he would give them the treasures that the other spiritual pets asked for, even though he would grimace in pain every time. The other spiritual pets didn't really need these things. They just thought Debeo was a miser. As long as it was a practicing tool, he would keep it, regardless of its grade. So, they often teamed up to make fun of him. Every time they saw Debeo hand over his spiritual materials for refining low-grade magic tools, or 1 or 2 500-year-old spiritual herbs, as if he was cutting his own flesh, the others would gloat and laugh. Debeo would hide in his cave residence angrily and practice hard. He wanted to surpass the others in cultivation so that he could take advantage of them. However, what made people helpless was that Debeo's ambition could only persist until the end of his cultivation, but at least before the end of the cultivation, Debeo's ambition still existed. When Debeo looked up, he saw Lu Dague standing in front of Debeo with a simple and honest face. Seeing Debeo's surprised and angry eyes, he touched his bright head and said with a silly smile, "Hee, brother Debeo, you almost hit the master." Debeo cried in grief and indignation. "Dague, why are you like this too?" Lu Dague smiled, but didn't speak. Debeo saw that he couldn't avoid it this time. In fact, he couldn't avoid it again. He had to say helplessly, "Well, you won, but don't think that I didn't prepare this time." Everyone did not know what Debeo was talking about, but they saw Debeo suddenly turn into a cloud of yellow dust with a bang. The dust rapidly shrank into the ground, and in the blink of an eye, disappeared into the soil. Lu Qiner blinked and said with pity, "Pang Bao's earth escape technique is getting more and more exquisite." This time, he actually escaped. Lu Linger also nodded and said, "In the past, Brother Bao's earth escape technique was exquisite, and his ability to escape was first class. But with the few of us working together, even if Brother Debeo didn't help, he still couldn't escape. This time, Brother Debeo's other abilities haven't improved much, but his ability to escape has become more and more perfect." While they were talking, Lu Ping raised his eyebrows, and the yellow smoke that was previously not buried in the ground suddenly came out. The yellow smoke suddenly dissipated, and Debeo proudly stood in the same place. He stretched out his right hand that was clenched behind his back, and a crystal-clear pearl suddenly appeared in Debeo's hand. Lu Qiner grabbed the pearl and looked at it for a moment. She had seen such a pearl in Lu Ping's hand before. She said with surprise, "A small spirit-gathering pearl? Pang Bao, you are so generous this time." Lu Linger's little nose wrinkled, and she said, "Generous what? Isn't it just taking advantage of others?" The spirit-gathering pearl slowly flew from Lu Qiner's hand and landed in Lu Ping's hand. Although Lu Ping had already obtained several spirit-gathering pearls, after seeing it this time, he was quite surprised. The small spirit veins on Huangli Island had already been cultivated by Lu Ping to 8. With this one, it was not far from becoming a medium spirit vein. Lu Ping put away the spirit-gathering pearl casually and asked, Debao, when did you find a spirit-gathering pearl underground? Although the density of the spirit chi here has reached the level of a giant spirit vein, the spirit vein is not here. Debao shook his head in confusion and said, I don't know about this. It's just that in the process of my cultivation breakthrough, when my divine sense was transforming into divine sense, I could vaguely penetrate the ground with my divine sense. I saw that the spirit chi on the ground was gathering towards Master, and at the same time, a spirit-gathering pearl was slowly forming. After Master's cultivation breakthrough and awakening, the surrounding spirit chi dissipated, and this spirit-gathering pearl was also formed. Lu Qiner giggled and said, Pang Bao, I can condense a spirit-gathering pearl after my cultivation breakthrough. You also have a breakthrough. Why didn't you condense a spirit-gathering pearl? Even if it's a miniature spirit-gathering pearl? De Bao's round face flushed red, and he said, Humph, little blue wand. How do you know that I, Big Brother Bao, did not condense a spirit-gathering pearl? It's just that the spirit chi that I, Big Brother Bao, have also gathered into the spirit-gathering pearl in Master's hand. Lu Ping nodded and said, De Bao is right. The spirit vein that this miniature spirit-gathering pearl can nurture in the future will indeed exceed a whole spirit vein. Hearing Lu Ping's words, De Bao immediately glanced at Lu Qiner arrogantly. But then Lu Ping said, Unfortunately, the part that exceeded this time is not even enough for a miniature spirit vein. De Bao's face suddenly fell, but the two mischievous kids, Lu Qiner and Lu Linger, laughed like silver bells. Seeing Lu Qiner and Lu Linger laughing non-stop, De Bao said angrily, Don't think that this is the only treasure I found. After I advanced to the core forging stage, my ability to find treasures has greatly improved. The spirit chi here is so rich. How can there be no treasure? At that time, this time, it was De Bao who began to tremble. However, De Bao's words suddenly made everyone's eyes light up. Lu Qiner was the most anxious, and she said, Brother Peng Bao, what other treasures did you find? Can you take us to see them? De Bao raised his head and said arrogantly, Call me Brother Bao. I don't like people calling me fat. Lu Qiner suddenly frowned and said fiercely, Peng Bao, are you going or not? De Bao suddenly shuddered. At this time, Lu Ping said next to him, De Bao, let's go to the treasure you found first. There are not only a few of us in this secret plane. If we are late, maybe others will get it first. De Bao immediately took the opportunity and said, Little Qingwan, it's not that Brother Peng is afraid of you. This is the Master's order. With your explosive temper, be careful that you can't get married in the future. Lu Qiner looked at Luan Yu next to her, and her face suddenly turned red, but then she was about to attack De Bao again. She didn't know how smart De Bao was. When he said this, he had already turned into a cloud of yellow smoke and disappeared into the ground. Lu Ping smiled and explored with his divine thought. He had already found De Bao, who didn't dive deep into the ground. Then he followed De Bao in the direction of Earth Escape. The cultivator's divine thought couldn't penetrate very far under the ground, but with Lu Ping's current cultivation, Samling and Lu Daguay hurriedly followed. But after a few steps, everyone snickered. Lu Qiner was angry and anxious when she heard everyone snickering, but she didn't know what to say. At this time, Luan Yu was about to say something, but she was glared at by Lu Qiner. She stomped on the ground, and a fiery true essence was injected into the ground under her feet, burning the ground into a hardened state. Luan Yu looked at Lu Qiner, who walked forward angrily and shook her head helplessly. A burst of green smoke rose, and the cloth soles on Luan Yu's feet had been burned through. Chapter 556. When Luan Yu arrived behind the crowd, they were looking at a plant that was half the height of a person. To be precise, they were looking at a fist-sized pale green fruit on the top of the plant. De Bao seemed to be stimulated by someone and shouted, This fruit must be very strange. Although I, De Bao, am only talented in sensing the gathering and dispersing of spiritual chi, that was before I reached the core forging stage. Now I am a high-level beast cultivator of the core forging stage. Lu Linger suddenly opened her mouth and said, Pang Bao, did you awaken other talents after you reached the core forging stage? Debeo was dumbfounded. After a moment, he braced himself and said, Humph, you have to believe in my intuition. In the future, I will definitely be the most powerful connoisseur in the cultivation world. I will see all the treasures in the world. This fruit must be extraordinary. So that's how it is. Lu Linger seemed to have seen through Debeo's trick and said to Lu Qiner with a teasing smile. Debeo saw the two of them teasing him and was immediately annoyed. When he was about to lose his temper, he heard someone behind him say, Hey, Palewood pure jade fruit. I didn't expect that the spiritual fruit, which has been extinct in the cultivation world for a long time, could still survive here. Moreover, this fruit seems to have reached the point of maturity. When everyone looked back, they saw Wan Yu looking at the fruit with a face full of joy. She said while walking. Lu Ping originally thought that this fruit was familiar, but he didn't have a deep impression of it. For a moment, he couldn't remember the origin of this fruit. After hearing Wan Yu's words, he suddenly understood. This fruit was the Palewood pure jade fruit that Wan Yu had given to Lu Ping in the inheritance record of the Wood Luan clan. Even though Lu Ping had read through the records of this inheritance extremely seriously, the Wood Luan race's tens of thousands of years of collection and records regarding spirit herbs and spirit trees. Just how vast was the content? Even though Lu Ping's divine sense far surpassed that of others, how many layers could he see? How much could he remember in a short amount of time? Lu Ping suddenly thought of the use of the pure jade fruit recorded by the Wood Luan clan and said happily, So this is the pure jade fruit. This is really a rare item. Just this fruit alone makes this trip to the secret place worthwhile. Debeo was originally speechless after being rebuked by several people. When he heard this, he immediately raised his nostrils to the sky and looked at Lu Linger and Lu Qiner with disdain. He seemed to be more and more arrogant. Lu Hai, who was like an enigmatic gourd, suddenly said, Brother Bao, this posture is very good in the future. You don't have to be afraid of snot flowing out. Debeo suddenly felt as if there was a stream of snot pouring into his nose, mouth, and throat. He choked and coughed, pointing at Lu Hai and unable to speak. Lu Bai knocked Lu Hai and said, Second brother, can you not be so disgusting? Lu Hai laughed and no longer spoke. Lu Bai turned to Lu Ping and asked, Father, what kind of treasure is this pure jade fruit? Lu Ping turned to Luan Yu and said, Brother Luan, it's better for you to say it. Luan Yu said with a smile, The reason why this pure jade fruit does not have too much spiritual qi, besides the fact that the spiritual qi in the environment here is too dense, the biggest reason is that this is a kind of spirit fruit that can strengthen the physical strength of cultivators. In the cultivation world, there are only a few spirit herbs and spirit fruits that can be used to strengthen the physical strength. Therefore, the convenience of using these things as materials to make pills is also extremely rare. Seeing that everyone understood the effect of the pure jade fruit, Luan Yu said again, I believe you all should understand the benefits of the physical strength. This is an important factor in whether Dharma idol Laozu can pass the tribulation and go further. This pure azure wood fruit can be used to concoct a type of pure azure wood pill. This pill is different from the bone forging pill that Brother Lu used in the past. The bone forging pill focuses more on strengthening the cultivator's bones, while the pure azure wood pill is a type of pill that specializes in strengthening the muscles and muscles. If this pill is used on an ordinary cultivator, the cultivator's fleshly body would instantly reach the mid-grade magic treasure stage. This is a relatively high-grade pill used to strengthen the fleshly body. Unfortunately, we do not have the pill recipe for the pure jade pill. Lu Ping asked with some regret, Brother Luan, do you know where to find this pure jade pill? Luan Yu thought for a moment and said, The pill recipe for the pure jade pill is said to be the inheritance of the human race's alchemists. The 5 great sects of the Central Plains may have the inheritance, the other great sects may also have it, and there are also those aristocratic families with a long history or families that specialize in alchemy, such as the Lu family. At this time, the attentive Lu Bai suddenly said, Father, when that Yuan flew over here, he was flying in the direction of this pure jade fruit. Does that Yuan aristocratic family have the pill recipe for the pure jade pill? Lu Ping nodded, unable to see any clues from his deep affection. Seeing Lu Ping like this, Luan Yu interjected. The Yuan aristocratic family has a long history, comparable to the 5 great sects. It is not strange that the family has this pill recipe passed down. Lu Ping suddenly stepped forward, wanting to pick the pure jade fruit, but Lu Ping had just taken 2 steps forward when Debeo suddenly emerged from the ground, running backwards as he said, "Boss, quickly retreat." The 4 earthen walls suddenly rose up from the ground, and the 4 shields instantly turned into 4 balls of spirit water that merged with the earthen walls. The earthen walls were quickly reinforced, and dozens of ropes formed from roots suddenly loosened, rose up, and pulled out. With a pa sound, a huge ravine appeared on the earthen walls. Debeo jumped up and down again, baring his teeth as he cursed, "Your Grandpa Shu is going to die from the pain. Just you wait. Your Grandpa Shu will definitely burn all of you to ashes in just a moment." As soon as Debeo's voice fell, he saw a golden sword light flash. In the past, Debeo could not catch the sword light in Lu Ping's hand, but now that he had advanced to the core forging stage, he finally caught the sword light. However, in his heart, he had a more intuitive understanding of the power of Lu Ping's swordsmanship, and in his heart, he had a more intuitive understanding of the power of Lu Ping's swordsmanship. In his heart, there was a trace of awe for Lu Ping than before he advanced to the core forging stage. At this time, Lu Ping did not care about the spiritual energy turbulence caused by the use of swordsmanship, which would attract the attention of other cultivators. Because these countless roots had already stirred up the spiritual energy in this secret area, even if Lu Ping did not make a move, it would attract the attention of other cultivators in this secret area. Even if Lu Ping did not make a move, it would attract the attention of other cultivators in this secret area. If Lu Ping made a move now, he would have the upper hand. Everyone, work together. When Luan Yu saw Lu Ping use his great swordsmanship to cut off nearly 100 roots in front of him, he immediately understood what Lu Ping meant. He raised his hands one after another, and a row of 6 true essence balls flew out from his hands, turning into 18 small true essence balls and submerging into the roots. The 18 roots were under Luan Yu's control, and suddenly more than 50 roots around them were tightly entangled. Samling and Lu Qiner took the opportunity to use their own methods to cut off more than 50 roots as quickly as possible. Everyone advanced more than 10 feet in an instant. Lu Ping followed closely behind, using the famous great magical power passed down by his teacher, Lu Tianling. Lu Ping used 5 water spouts. Each water spout covered more than 20 roots, and each root was tightly bound by the water spout. Only when there were 7 water spouts could it be regarded as a great magical power. Lu Ping was still 2 water spouts away from his 4th great magical power. Chapter 557. Lu Ping wielded his golden scale sword and nether water sword at the same time. As the hundreds of roots were bound by the water spout and unable to resist, the nether water sword no longer had to deliberately use the sword technique to make itself invisible. He used the raging waves hitting the shore's sword technique, which he had not used for a long time. The pair of flying swords turned into a golden wheel and a blue light, and they rushed towards the thick roots one after the other. Using this sword technique again, Lu Ping suddenly had a different feeling. Lu Ping had long since discovered that the raging waves hitting the shore's sword technique was actually more suitable for using a pair of flying swords to bring out the essence of this sword technique. However, since the flying wings dual swords had been broken, Lu Ping had never had the opportunity to obtain a pair of good flying swords. Therefore, he did not have a deep understanding of this sword technique. This time, when Lu Ping used it again, although the golden scale sword and the nether water sword were not a complete set of flying swords, and the 2 flying swords were even different in nature, with Lu Ping's attainments in swordsmanship, he was still able to control the 2 flying swords and barely use them as a pair of flying swords. However, the power displayed by the raging waves hitting the shore's sword technique greatly surprised Lu Ping. At this time, Lu Ping's swordsmanship had already risen to the true temple of swordsmanship in the cultivation world, and the only thing he lacked was cultivation. At this time, when Lu Ping looked back at this sword technique, he suddenly found that the true essence of this sword technique had not been discovered by Lu Ping at all. The raging waves hitting the shore's sword technique was more than a set of exquisite swordsmanship. If it was really practiced to the extreme, how could its power be inferior to that of a great magical skill? Discovering a powerful magical skill from the inheritance of his family's swordsmanship made Lu Ping both surprised and regretful. If he had known this, Lu Ping would have asked Jinling's weapon refiner to refine a set of flying swords for him. But now was not the time for regret, because at this time, Lu Ping's divine thought had already captured that someone was coming in this direction. Lu Ping had already retracted his bloodline suppression, which was accompanied by his divine will, surged towards the incoming person in an overwhelming manner. Sure enough, the newcomer was intimidated by Lu Ping's power. He stood there motionlessly, as if he was hesitating about something. Lu Ping, Wan Yu, and the others advanced another 100 feet towards the azure wood pure jade fruit. At that moment, Lu Ping abruptly raised his head and saw that another cultivator was rushing over from where the previous cultivator was. After meeting up with the previous cultivator, they once again rushed towards the verdant wood pure jadeite fruit. This time, however, they were much more cautious. 2 late core forging adepts actually dared to beat up a Dharma adept. Qiu Feng? Lu Ping instantly understood. Dharma adepts were originally unable to enter the secret area, so if there really was a Dharma adept here, then it must be because he had just used the violent spiritual qi to trigger an advancement opportunity and was lucky enough to advance to the Dharma adept. Such a adept's cultivation had not yet stabilized, so how could he have the confidence to face the joint attack of other late core forging adepts? Moreover, these 2 late core forging adepts dared to challenge a Dharma adept. Then, these 2 people were most likely either from the Crystal Palace or the Yuan clan. Only these 2 families had the strength and confidence to dare to use late core forging adepts to fight against Dharma adepts. Moreover, Lu Ping and the others were not Dharma adepts. Once these 2 people arrived, everyone's true cultivation would be immediately exposed. At that time, not only would they not be able to scare off the adepts, but they would also end up being hunted down by the adepts. Thinking of this, the 2 flying swords in Lu Ping's hands could not help but speed up a bit. At the same time, Dabeo and Dague also joined forces to open up the road to the azure wood pure jade fruit. Unfortunately, these 2 people's strength was really poor. Lu Dague's strength was reflected in the shield in his hand, and Dabeo's mind was completely focused on escaping. Although these 2 people could increase the effectiveness of the shield, they did not help much in speeding up the progress of Lu Ping. Lu Ping opened his mouth and blew, and the eastern purple flame suddenly flew out from Lu Ping's storage instrument, suddenly covering dozens of roots that were waving towards Lu Ping. Before the eastern purple flame could burn these dozens of roots, a black demonic flame suddenly flew out from Lu Ping's hand, once again burning dozens of roots with a crackling sound. The speed of this flame was no less than that of the eastern purple flame. Seeing that the 2 people were getting closer and closer to Lu Ping, they could discover the true cultivation level of Lu Ping and the others at any time. Lu Ping was very anxious. As he used all his strength to cut off the roots in front of him, he used his divine will to see if there was anything else in the storage instrument that could be used to speed up the process of getting the azure wood pure jade fruit. At this time, Lu Ping's heart moved, and a ball of golden liquid floated above his palm. Lu Ping stretched out his hand, and the golden liquid collapsed into a cloud of golden mist that scattered towards the roots. The moment these roots were shrouded by the golden mist, it was as if they were scalded by boiling water, and they quickly shrank back into the ground. Lu Ping was secretly happy, and he hurriedly moved forward. However, just as Lu Ping condensed the golden mist again, the roots that had shrunk back into the ground once again popped out and wrapped around Lu Ping. Lu Ping had no choice but to once again disperse the golden mist, and at the same time, cast the myriad poison meteorite gang to temporarily protect his body. When the roots came into contact with the golden mist and the golden myriad poison meteorite gang, they immediately shrank back into the ground. Lu Ping, who seemed to be surrounded by the roots, began to move forward in the middle of the waving roots. Although his speed was still very slow, it was much better than using magic treasures to clear these roots bit by bit. At least, Lu Ping did not need to spend a lot of true essence to cut these roots. At this time, two late core forging realm cultivators rushed over from afar. Judging by their clothes, Lu Ping guessed that they were cultivators from the Crystal Palace. The two Crystal Palace cultivators saw that the waving roots were surrounding the verdant wood pure jade fruit, and they were first delighted. However, when they saw that Lu Ping was actually able to move forward in the middle of the waving roots, they frowned. Before the two cultivators appeared, Lu Ping had already collected Luan Yu and the others into the Golden House. Lu Ping had also stopped attacking. Relying on the effects of the Myriad Poison Meteorite Gang and the Myriad Poison Liquid, he forcibly opened a path through the waving roots and walked towards the verdant wood pure jade fruit. After Lu Ping walked past, the shrinking roots behind him stretched out again. At the same time, they also blocked the path that Lu Ping had opened. It seemed that these roots were letting Lu Ping pass. The two Crystal Palace cultivators looked at each other and seemed to be discussing something. The two of them made a half-circle and appeared on the path that Lu Ping and the others had opened up. They directly walked in, and as a result, they were directly behind Lu Ping. With the help of the path that Lu Ping and the others had opened up, they shortened the distance between them and Lu Ping. At the same time, they also blocked Lu Ping's path of retreat. What an arrogant Crystal Palace cultivator! Lu Ping's divine sense detected that one of the Crystal Palace cultivators suddenly took out two swords and said something. The swords flew in two different directions. Obviously, they were summoning their fellow disciples from the Crystal Palace. This was using late core forging realm cultivators to besiege a transcendence realm cultivator. Lu Ping's expression turned serious. In the overseas cultivation world, only the Crystal Palace cultivators would dare and have the ability to do such a thing. Lu Ping's expression did not change, but he secretly increased the amount of myriad poison liquid he used. The true essence in his body disappeared like flowing water. However, the speed at which Lu Ping moved forward did not increase by much. At this time, Lu Ping could no longer use other offensive methods to advance. Because once Lu Ping attacked, Lu Ping's true cultivation would be exposed in front of the Crystal Palace cultivators. Lu Ping was currently disguised as a cultivator who had just advanced to the Transcendence realm, but the Crystal Palace cultivators still dared to gang up on him. If Lu Ping really revealed his core forging realm cultivation, the two Crystal Palace cultivators behind him would immediately attack and kill Lu Ping. Just as Lu Ping was trying to open up the space in the Golden House to draw out more myriad poison liquid, Lu Ping's divine sense suddenly captured an aura from the open space passage. Through the space passage, the aura seemed to be curiously and nervously looking at the outside world. There was even a trace of excitement and impatience in the aura. Lu Ping paid attention to this aura with a strange expression. However, he did not stop this aura from leaking out of the Golden House. However, after this aura emerged from the space passage that Lu Ping had specially opened up and adapted to the outside environment, it quickly established a mysterious connection with the waving roots on the ground. Even Lu Ping did not know what would happen next. However, to Lu Ping's surprise, when this aura came into contact with the roots, they suddenly stood up straight like steel needles. They no longer waved around and attacked. Lu Ping walked around the roots in disbelief. As expected, the roots did not attack Lu Ping. After Lu Ping walked over, the upright roots slowly wriggled again, returning to their previous menacing state. Lu Ping was overjoyed. Following the guidance of this aura, he walked around the roots as if he was walking around a small tree. The roots seemed to have treated Lu Ping as one of their own. The Crystal Palace cultivators behind Lu Ping, who were blocked by the roots, looked at Lu Ping leisurely waving the roots in a dumbfounded manner. Lu Ping walked up to the azure wood pure jade fruit, took out a jade essence box from his storage magic treasure, carefully picked the fruit and put it into the jade box. At this moment, the Crystal Palace cultivators seemed to wake up from a dream. Seeing that Lu Ping was going to leave in another direction, the two of them quickly went around the waving roots to where Lu Ping was going. They tried to cut off Lu Ping's path and trap Lu Ping among the roots. When the other cultivators from the Crystal Palace arrived, they would besiege Lu Ping. At that time, even if Lu Ping advanced to the Dharma manifestation stage, under the siege of the Crystal Palace's Dao Soldier formation, Lu Ping could only die. In this way, not only would the azure wood pure jade fruit be in the Crystal Palace's pocket, but Lu Ping's wealth would also be a windfall for the Crystal Palace cultivators. Chapter 558. A few more flashes of light fell from the sky. For Crystal Palace cultivators at the late stage of core forging realm appeared from the flashes of light. Although the 2 Crystal Palace cultivators looked happy, the 6 cultivators at the late stage of core forging realm stared at Lu Ping, who was walking leisurely among the roots. They no longer concealed their intention to kill Lu Ping. Lu Ping seemed to not see them. He still walked in the previous direction unhurriedly toward the trap of the Tao soldier formation set by the 6 Crystal Palace cultivators. As Lu Ping got closer and closer to the 6 cultivators, the 6 Crystal Palace cultivators began to doubt themselves. What did this cultivator mean? Did he really think that he could fight against the Tao soldier formation, formed by the 6 late-stage core forging realm cultivators of the Crystal Palace by himself? The 6 Crystal Palace cultivators dared to fight against a cultivator who had just entered the Dharma characteristic stage with their late-stage core forging realm cultivation because they had won several battles against Dharma characteristic stage cultivators. They even had a record of killing Dharma characteristic stage cultivators more than once. Therefore, they were so sure of their own strength. However, this cultivator, who seemed to come from the central region, did not look anxious at all. Did he also have a trump card that allowed him to escape from the siege of the 6 cultivators? The faces of the 6 cultivators from Crystal Palace grew solemn, and they spread their divine senses outwards. However, they found nothing. They did not find any cultivators who might be here to receive this person. Immediately, the 6 of them looked at one another. Lu Ping bypassed a root, and his hidden face was immediately exposed to the Crystal Palace cultivators. A cultivator from the Lu family of the central region. I know this person. He is called Lu Runjian. He is one of the 2nd-generation disciples of the Lu family of the central region. He is very promising to advance to the Dharma characteristic stage. I didn't expect that a cultivator from the Lu family would be so lucky to meet him. The Lu family killed the alchemist of our sect, Pang Xiuan. This time, we happened to meet Lu Runjian. His status and achievements are similar to Master Ping's. God wants us to avenge Master Pang Xiuan. That's right. The Crystal Palace has never suffered such a loss. A middle-level family from the central region actually dared to attack a cultivator of our sect. Even the 5 giant sects of the central region wouldn't dare to do it so blatantly. When Lu Ping entered the secret plane, Lyra Laozu gave Lu Ping a mask magic weapon. Lu Ping originally wanted to change himself into the appearance of Yuan Feixiang. However, he immediately remembered that Yuan Feixiang was only at the 7th level of the core forging realm at the beginning. The cultivators from the Crystal Palace had no choice but to admit that this encirclement had most likely failed. After a while, the 6 people left in different directions. A few miles away from where they were, Lu Ping drilled out from the ground with a head full of grass and wood dust. He used a dust avoidance technique to remove all the dust on his body. There was only a layer of yellow light left on Lu Ping's body. Lu Ping patted the yellow light, and the light immediately shrank back into the golden house on his chest. This was because after Debeo advanced to the core forging stage, his earth escape technique had finally been strengthened again. He could attach his own magical power to another person's body through his inner yuan and give them the ability to earth escape technique. Every time Lu Ping was in danger, he would rely on Debeo's earth escape technique to hide in the ground. Although he was able to escape danger every time, Debeo's poor accumulation of Fa Li often caused Lu Ping to be stuck in the ground. Although he managed to escape with his life, he often exhausted his inner yuan and even vomited blood due to serious injuries. After advancing to the core forging stage, Debeo finally perfected his half-baked earth escape technique. The earth escape technique was no longer limited to him, and he no longer had to embarrass Lu Ping because of Debeo's shallow accumulation of Fa Li. He also no longer had to pass out every time he used earth escape technique because of the exhaustion of his Fa Li. Lu Ping observed his surroundings. After confirming that there were no other cultivators hiding nearby, Lu Ping sent his divine sense into the Golden House. Inside the Golden House, Luan Yu, Samling and the others were discussing something around the spirit demon peach tree. DeBeo was constantly walking around the spirit demon peach tree, looking at it from top to bottom. It seemed as if he had gained a new understanding of the spirit demon peach tree. Inside the golden house, there was no wind all year round. However, now that everyone was whispering around the spirit demon peach tree with a curious expression, the entire crown of the spirit demon peach tree moved without any wind and made rustling sounds. It seemed as if the tree was shivering. At this moment, Lu Ping's divine sense descended into the golden house. The spirit demon peach tree seemed as if it had suddenly met a loved one. The crown of the spirit demon peach tree shook violently. In the eyes of others, the reaction of the spirit demon peach tree was no different from the reaction of Luan Yu and the others when they surrounded the spirit demon peach tree. However, Lu Ping could feel a sense of joy, desire, and attachment to Lu Ping from the aura of the spirit demon peach tree's divine sense. Lu Ping's divine sense condensed into a blue halo in mid-air. The halo emitted a gentle blue light that shone on the crown of the spirit demon peach tree. It was as if a father was comforting his frightened daughter by caressing her head to give her a sense of security. Sure enough, under the comfort of Lu Ping's divine sense, the spirit demon peach tree finally calmed down. Lu Ping sensed that the spirit demon peach tree was emitting an aura that was exactly the same as the one that could completely nullify the attack of the roots that extended from underground. His heart was in turmoil. What was the relationship between this secret zone and the spirit demon peach tree? Why was the spirit demon peach tree able to control the violent underground roots in the secret zone? Could it be that the opportunity for the spirit demon peach tree had arrived? If it weren't for the fact that Lu Ping was sure that the surrounding roots would not attack him, Lu Ping would not have dared to use the earth escape technique to escape from the place where the roots extended out. That was simply courting death. However, it was precisely because of the aura of the spirit demon peach tree that Lu Ping not only quickly escaped from the area with the help of DeBeo's earth escape technique, but after the Crystal Palace cultivators launched a joint attack, the underground roots spontaneously gathered behind Lu Ping, protecting Lu Ping. Otherwise, even if Lu Ping had DeBeo's earth escape technique, he would not be able to escape unscathed under the siege of the Tao soldiers formed by the late-stage core forging realm cultivators from the Crystal Palace. Lu Ping naturally knew that these roots were not actually protecting him at all, but protecting the spirit demon peach tree in the golden house. After the spirit demon peach tree was calmed down by Lu Ping, it once again captured a message from the simple fluctuations of the spirit demon peach tree's divine sense. It was going to find something. Lu Ping was surprised and naturally asked where to find it. The answer given by the spirit demon peach tree made Lu Ping even more awestruck. Just now, because of curiosity, the spirit demon peach tree opened the passage to the golden house when Lu Ping extracted the 1,000 poison syrup from the golden house. At the same time, it also used its own aura to look at the outside world through the space passage. However, it was noticed by a great existence. Now, the spirit demon peach tree actually said that it wanted to pay a visit. Lu Ping naturally did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly asked if the great existence that the spirit demon peach tree mentioned was the commander of those roots. This time, the spirit demon peach tree said yes and then no, making Lu Ping a little confused. Lu Ping's communication with the spirit demon peach tree did not intentionally avoid Luan Yu and the others. On the contrary, from time to time, he would share the information that he understood and even guessed from the simple expressions of the spirit demon peach tree. At this time, Luan Yu asked, "Little peach tree, where is the great existence that you mentioned? How is it great?" This time, the spirit demon peach tree was unable to answer. It could only express one thing: big, very big. Chapter 559. Lu Ping changed his appearance once more and followed the directions given by the spirit peach tree. Strangely enough, Lu Ping did not find a single cultivator in the secret zone along the way. Lu Ping first walked past a garden filled with spiritual grasses. Some of the spiritual grasses had been growing for a long time, reaching the height of half a person. However, when Lu Ping walked past the spiritual grasses, the densely packed spiritual grasses fell to the sides, revealing a path. Lu Ping looked at the spiritual grasses in the garden. Almost all of them were over 1,000 years old. 3,000-year-old spiritual grasses took up almost a third of the spiritual grasses. Many of them were extremely rare spiritual grasses. Lu Ping even found several types of spiritual grasses that had long been extinct in the world of cultivation. Not only were they growing here, they were also growing in an extremely luxuriant manner. After seeing the spiritual grasses, Lu Ping instinctively wanted to bend down and pick the spiritual grasses first. However, the spirit peach tree in the golden house suddenly emitted a violent fluctuation. It seemed to be extremely anxious. Lu Ping pondered for a moment. Then, he used his divine sense to ask the spirit peach tree in the golden house, "You mean to say that I cannot pick these spiritual grasses?" The crown of the spirit peach tree suddenly rustled once more. Lu Ping could hear the joy that the spirit peach tree was expressing. Lu Ping looked regretfully at the tens of thousands of spiritual grasses growing on the ground. Among them, there were nearly 4,000 3,000-year-old spiritual grasses. Lu Ping turned his head and no longer looked at the spiritual grasses on the ground. Instead, he hurriedly walked through the path that the spiritual grasses had opened up. Lu Ping was afraid that if he looked at them for too long, he would no longer be able to resist the temptation in his heart. After Lu Ping walked through the spiritual grasses that had fallen to the sides once again stood upright. The path that Lu Ping had walked through previously was once again hidden. At this moment, a layer of dense energy appeared above the spiritual grasses. This dense energy filled the air above the spiritual grasses. Suddenly, the spiritual grasses disappeared from the ground. What appeared in front of him was a rocky cliff. Lu Ping passed through the spirit grass and appeared in front of him again in the Blackwater swamp. From time to time, sticky bubbles would pop up from the muddy ground in the swamp. Some of the bubbles would burst and release a sweet smell, while others would release a foul stench. Some of the bubbles would form a dense cloud of air, while others would be colorless and odorless, nowhere to be found. Lu Ping's eyes flashed with blue light, but he could not see through the slightest bit of this Blackwater swamp. It seemed that there was no place in this swamp that people could safely land on. Rather than saying that this was a swamp full of traps, it was better to say that this was simply a bottomless quagmire. Once someone fell into it, there was only the fate of being swallowed. Before Lu Ping arrived in front of the swamp in the distance, a layer of golden luster suddenly appeared in the middle of the blue spiritual grasses and entered into Lu Ping's body through his nose. Immediately, it turned into a gentle liquid and merged with Lu Ping's blood vessels. The moment the spiritual energy in Lu Ping's body encountered this liquid, it was like snow under the sun, turning into nothing by this liquid. Lu Ping was startled, and a layer of golden luster suddenly appeared in the middle of the blue spiritual energy, firmly resisting this invisible liquid. Then, the spiritual energy in his blood vessels was completely mobilized, and countless golden rays of light emitted from his blood vessels, almost dyeing Lu Ping's entire blood vessels gold. The myriad meteoric poisons condensed from the spiritual energy in his blood vessels was stimulated by Lu Ping, forcing this invisible liquid to a point and began to gradually swallow and dissolve it. However, this liquid was extremely tenacious. Although it was still being swallowed by the myriad meteoric poisons drop by drop, the process was extremely slow. After a long time, from the outside, Lu Ping's entire body seemed to be emitting a faint golden brilliance. After a moment, Lu Ping's palm turned over, and a jade crystal bottle appeared in Lu Ping's palm. Lu Ping placed his left index finger above the mouth of the bottle. Lu Ping's index finger was suddenly dyed blood red, and then a faint golden color appeared in the blood red. Then, a faint cyan color gradually appeared on the tip of his index finger. The range of the cyan color grew larger and larger, almost occupying a third of his fingertip. A drop of cyan liquid gradually condensed on the tip of Lu Ping's index finger. The water droplet became larger and larger, and gradually, it could no longer adhere to the index finger. Finally, it separated from the index finger and fell to the bottom of the bottle, issuing a crisp sound. Then, Another drop of cyan liquid condensed and fell into the jade crystal bottle. This happened 3 times, and the cyan liquid finally stopped condensing. The invisible liquid that had previously been immersed in Lu Ping's spiritual energy was also completely forced out of his body by Lu Ping. Looking at the swamp in front of him, Lu Ping had a lingering fear in his heart. He quickly used the myriad poison meteorite gang to protect his body and completely wrapped himself in the aura chi. Just as the myriad poison meteorite gang was propped up, the originally golden aura chi was suddenly dyed with a multicolored demonic color. Lu Ping was even more amazed in his heart. The myriad poison meteorite gang was an aura chi refined from the mother of all poisons, the myriad poison serum. Its golden color itself was a tool for testing poisons. After the invisible sweet poisonous gas had invaded Lu Ping's spiritual energy, it had condensed into a cyan liquid under the pressure of the myriad poison meteorite gang. At this time, the golden myriad poison meteorite gang had been dyed into a multicolored color. Obviously, the poisons contained in this swamp were not only fierce to the point that the myriad poison meteorite gang could not be dissolved in a short period of time, and could only be used as a temporary defense. Moreover, the swamp contained a wide variety of poisons. This made Lu Ping very surprised. There were many poisons in the cultivation world that could not coexist. Although the myriad poison serum could contain tens of thousands of poisons, the contained poisons had been transformed into a completely new kind of poison. It was not that the various poisons existed independently and did not interfere with each other. This swamp was unexpectedly able to contain all kinds of different poisons together without conflicting with each other. It seemed that this swamp also had its own special characteristics. However, at this time, the difficulty that Lu Ping was facing was how to pass through this swamp. If this swamp was not too large, Lu Ping could rely on the myriad poison meteorite gang to resist the poisons and his own strong chi to fly across. However, this swamp seemed to be endless. If Lu Ping exhausted his chi in the process of flying, he feared that he would not even have a place to land. Just as Lu Ping was feeling a little helpless, the aura of the spirit monster peach tree once again seeped out from the golden house. Lu Ping was originally afraid that the poisonous gas outside might cause harm to the spirit monster peach tree's divine sense aura. Unexpectedly, after the aura of the spirit monster peach tree was released, the poisonous gas that had dyed Lu Ping's protective aura into a multicolored color had a clear movement. Lu Ping was startled, and then he found that there was an invisible divine sense aura in the swamp. This aura was similar to the aura of the spirit monster peach tree, but it was not the same. Before Lu Ping could carefully feel the difference between the two auras seemed to have reached an agreement and instantly retracted. Before Lu Ping could ask the spirit monster peach tree in the golden house what happened, more bubbles suddenly appeared in the swamp. Because of the absorption of the poisonous gas, the 5 colors on the surface of the myriad poison meteorite gang began to fade, but now it became stronger again. It was even several times stronger than the previous good medicine. Lu Ping's face changed greatly, and he quickly retreated. Unexpectedly, the spirit monster peach tree's divine sense in the golden house clearly told Lu Ping that there would not be too much danger. At this time, there were no more bubbles in the swamp. Instead, there was a lot of mud, as if something was going to come out of the swamp. However, Lu Ping's expression was still solemn, because there was more and more mud coming out of the swamp. With Lu Ping as the starting point, it spread all the way to an extremely far place. If there was really something hidden in the swamp, then this thing must be huge. Hulyalu, there were still roots coming out of the swamp, and they were even thicker than the roots found at the Azurewood pure jade fruit. Each root was as thick as a person's waist. These roots came out of the swamp and connected with each other. A few roots were side by side, forming a 3 feet wide bridge. The bridge extended further and further above the swamp. In the distance, there were still many roots that gradually floated out of the swamp. Mud constantly flowed down from the newly risen roots, revealing the original appearance of the bright yellow roots. After the roots emerged from the swamp, no more poisonous gas leaked out. Lu Ping's meteoric poison energy shield was able to withstand the corrosive effects of the poisonous gas when the roots emerged from the swamp. After that, there was no further corrosive effects. Lu Ping's meteoric poison energy shield was able to withstand the corrosive effects. Under the urging of the spirit monster peach tree, Lu Ping finally stepped on the pontoon formed by these roots and walked towards the other end of the swamp, where the edge could not be seen clearly. Although Lu Ping's protective aura was no longer flashing the strong colors of 5 colors like before, there was still poisonous gas around Lu Ping, so the golden aura was always stained with a layer of faint 5 colors. However, these poisons could no longer bring pressure to Lu Ping at this time. On the contrary, because of the thinning of the poisonous gas, the fusion and evolution process of the myriad poison meteorite gang was accelerated. While walking on the root pontoon bridge, Lu Ping suddenly thought of something. When he looked back, he found that the pontoon bridge behind him was already shrouded by a thick layer of fog. In the fog, Lu Ping couldn't see if the pontoon bridge was still there. In the surrounding swamp, except for the occasional 1 or 2 bubbles that struggled to break through the shackles of the mud and floated up, it seemed that there was only the sound of Lu Ping's feet stepping on the bridge in the whole world. Lu Ping did not know how long this silent journey had passed. It was as if Lu Ping suddenly passed through something. When he looked up, the other side of the swamp was already in sight. A small path that no one had ever walked on led straight ahead. When Lu Ping looked up, he saw that it was in the direction of the towering tree. The moment the aura of the spirit peach tree appeared, Lu Ping clearly felt the special aura that had come into contact with the spirit peach tree flash by. And Lu Ping also felt that although the aura did not appear again, it seemed to be everywhere. At this moment, Lu Ping's every move could not escape the detection of the owner of the aura. Lu Ping looked up at the towering tree. The giant tree was as tall as the clouds, still as a mountain. But Lu Ping's intuition told him that the source of the omnipresent special aura came from this towering tree. Could it be that this towering tree was a spirit demon tree? If this towering tree was truly a spirit demon tree, then just what level of cultivation did this spirit demon tree have to reach in order to have such a huge body? But then Lu Ping thought that the spirit demon tree's main body was here, and it had used various methods to lead Lu Ping and the others here. Obviously, it was because this spirit medicine had not succeeded in transforming. Otherwise, it would not have used such a method to lead Lu Ping here. It should have gone there personally. If the spirit demon tree could not advance to the core forging realm, it naturally could not separate from its main body and successfully transform. This spirit demon tree obviously had not succeeded in transforming, but its main body was so huge. Could it be that the spirit demon tree's inability to transform didn't affect its cultivation? If this spirit demon tree was like the spirit demon peach tree and was only at the late blood condensation realm, then Lu Ping would not believe it. Just as Lu Ping and Lu Ping were imagining things, a buzzing sound suddenly came from the space channel that Lu Ping had opened for the spirit demon peach tree. Lu Ping's eyebrows twitched, and his divine sense temporarily closed the space channel. At the same time, his divine sense asked the spirit demon peach tree something. After that, Lu Ping reopened the space tunnel, but only left a small gap. The spirit monster peach tree's divine sense spread out from the space tunnel and made contact with the mysterious divine sense from before. Lu Ping could clearly sense from the communication between the two divine senses that the mysterious divine sense exuded after receiving Lu Ping's request from the spirit monster peach tree. The divine sense immediately exuded a sense of joy and burst out violently. As expected, after the divine sense was separated from the spirit demon peach tree, the spirit demon peach tree finally gave Lu Ping a satisfactory answer. Lu Ping looked at the endless sea of flowers, and his heart was filled with joy. Although not every flower in this sea of flowers was a spiritual herb, almost every one of them was at least 500 years old. Moreover, after Lu Ping roughly checked the sea of flowers in front of him, he discovered that more than half of the flowers were spiritual herbs. This time, Lu Ping completely opened the space channel of the House of Gold. A golden door suddenly appeared in front of Lu Ping, and with a loud buzzing sound, 12 silver peaks flew out from the door. They paused in the sky for a moment, and then swam in the sea of flowers for a moment. Then, they turned around and flew back through the door. Lu Ping's expression didn't change in the slightest, as if he already knew that this would happen. Not long after the 12 half-foot-tall silver mountains returned to the golden house, an even louder buzzing sound suddenly rang out from within the golden house. The 12 core forging late-stage silver mountains that had come out to scout the way earlier were still the first to come out. However, this was only the beginning. Right after the 12 late blood condensation realm giant mountain peaks appeared, another 24 6th-level blood condensation realm giant mountain peaks. Their bodies were also slightly more injured than the previous 12 giant mountain peaks. Behind them were 36 5th-layer blood condensation realm cultivators and 48 4th-layer blood condensation realm cultivators. Their bodies had already shrunk to the size of 4 to 5 inches. After the 125th-level blood condensation realm silver peaks appeared, they didn't scatter. Instead, they flew towards the endless sea of flowers. Instead, they lined up neatly in the sky, as if they were going to be inspected by a king. After the 126th-level blood condensation realm silver peaks appeared, the deafening buzzing sound that came from the House of Gold suddenly disappeared. Only a crisp buzzing sound that sounded like the flapping of cicada wings could be heard coming from the golden door of the House of Gold. From the reflection of the golden house, a huge queen bee with a slender waist, plump buttocks, and a foot long appeared in front of the phalanx formed by the 120 giant bees. After the queen bee appeared, the 120 giant bees lined up neatly and surrounded the queen bee. They slowly flew towards the sea of flowers, as if a king was patrolling his territory, or checking the quality of the amethyst honey that might be collected in the sea of flowers. Lu Ping had seen two extremely magnificent areas full of flowers. One was the secret ground sea of flowers in the seven-star sky, where he had obtained the purple crystal wasp, which was basically extinct in the cultivation world. The other was the land of 100 flowers in the fallen mystery land, where he had obtained the Flower King level 9 white jade lotus, which allowed the purple crystal wasp to grow at a critical moment. However, these two areas paled in comparison to the sea of flowers in front of him. Lu Ping stood on the spot, keeping the spatial passage of the House of Gold open. The purple crystal wasp was a colony that he had personally nurtured, so he naturally had a thorough understanding of their habits. He knew that when the purple crystal wasp was collecting ordinary honey, the queen bee would not come out of the hive. Only under extremely special circumstances would the queen bee come out to inspect the area of the sea of flowers and evaluate the quality of the nectar. He had only encountered this situation twice. The first time was in the land of 100 flowers in the fallen mystery land, and the second time was in the land of heritage in Jinling that specialized in growing spiritual herbs. The ordinary spiritual herb gardens in Jinling were naturally open to Lu Ping's purple crystal wasps. In Jinling, Lu Ping's purple crystal wasps were the favorite of all the cultivators who sold spiritual herbs in Jinling. This was because the harvesting of the purple crystal wasps was often very beneficial to the growth of spiritual herbs. Moreover, Lu Ping was very generous. Usually, after he released the purple crystal wasps in a cultivator's spiritual herb garden, he would return 1/3 of the harvest to the owner of the spiritual herb garden. Of course, the purple crystal royal jelly was out of the question. It was too rare. Even if Lu Ping harvested all the spiritual herb gardens in Jinling, he might not be able to accumulate much purple crystal royal jelly. However, the purple crystal honey was different. Although the purple crystal royal jelly could not be mentioned in the same breath as the purple crystal royal jelly, for ordinary core forging cultivators, the purple crystal royal jelly was enough of a gift. More than a dozen core forging pill recipes passed down in Jinling could not be refined due to the purple crystal royal jelly's requirements. Now that the purple crystal royal jelly was in hand, these pills were naturally not a problem. For the cultivators of Jinling who had always been lacking pills, this undoubtedly broadened their cultivation channel. It should be known that in the North Sea, countless cultivators from different sects were envious of the purple crystal wasps in Jinling's hands. Unfortunately, the entire Jinling guarded this swarm of purple crystal wasps very strictly. For a long time, The sects of the North Sea and most of the cultivators in Jinling believe that this swarm of purple crystal wasps was actually cultivated by Fornax Laozu. Chapter 561. In order to help the Amethyst Queen Bee successfully break through the bottleneck between the mid-stage and late-stage blood condensation realm, Lu Ping had used Fornax Laozu to enter Jinling's land of inheritance twice. Of course, the price of entering the land of inheritance was also cruel. Fornax Laozu had taken half of Lu Ping's harvest from the land of inheritance twice. One had to know that this half was not the same as the other cultivators who managed the spiritual herb gardens. Fornax Laozu was a man of character. He directly said, half of the amethyst honey and half of the royal jelly. Otherwise, there's no need to talk. Lu Ping was naturally indignant and felt that he had suffered a loss. However, Fornax Laozu had already grasped his sore spot. Although Fornax Laozu had never personally cultivated the amethyst queen bee, his hundreds of years of experience and his identity as an alchemy grandmaster meant that his understanding of the amethyst queen bee was no less than Lu Ping's. However, when he thought about how Fornax Laozu had been carrying the blame of being the amethyst queen bee breeder for him, it saved Lu Ping a lot of trouble. Fornax Laozu used the amethyst queen bee's royal jelly to refine some of the top-grade elixirs that were crucial to Liang Xianfeng, Chu Xuanqing, and Guo Xianshan, who were in the process of breaking through to the Dharma manifestation stage. These elixirs played an indispensable role in Jinling's growth. Therefore, Lu Ping could reluctantly bear the pain. In the distance, the amethyst queen bee's patrol formation finally ended its inspection of the Sea of Flowers. Under the escort of 120 late-stage blood condensation amethyst queen bee, it once again entered the Golden House through the Golden Door. However, the 120 late-stage blood condensation amethyst queen bee remained outside. Just as the amethyst queen bee returned to the Golden House, the previously disappearing buzzing sound became even louder this time. The golden door of the Golden House flashed with ripples. Under Lu Ping's meticulous cultivation, the amethyst queen bee had grown to nearly 8,000 amethyst queen bees. Under the lead of 240 early-stage blood condensation amethyst queen bees, they gathered behind the 120 late-stage blood condensation amethyst queen bees that were already waiting in the sky. Then, each late-stage blood condensation amethyst queen bee led 2 early-stage blood condensation amethyst queen bees and about 70 late-stage blood condensation amethyst queen bees. They were divided into 120 small teams and charged towards the Sea of Flowers. After settling the matter of the amethyst queen bees, under the urging of the spirit monster peach tree, Lu Ping had no choice but to head towards the direction of the giant tree. Fortunately, the amethyst queen bee could sense the presence of the queen bee. As long as Lu Ping didn't purposely close the spatial passage to the Golden House, the entire amethyst queen bee swarm wouldn't fall into chaos. They could find Lu Ping at any time. The spirit herbs and blooming flowers in the Sea of Flowers swayed as Lu Ping walked through the path they opened. It was as if they were welcoming Lu Ping's arrival. Lu Ping strolled among the flowers. At the same time, he spread out his divine sense to carefully identify the spirit herbs and flowers. He compared them with the many spirit herbs in his memory. The deeper Lu Ping walked into the Sea of Flowers, the closer he got to the giant tree. The more luxuriant the spirit herbs, flowers, and trees became. The medicinal properties of the spirit herbs were also the densest. The amount of spiritual qi that the spirit herbs were absorbing was also more obvious. Lu Ping walked deeper into the Sea of Flowers. Before he discovered anything, Luan Yu was already shouting excitedly in the Golden House, "Growing soil! This is the scent of growing soil." The soil under the feet of these spirit herbs is definitely mixed with growing soil. Even though it's only a thin layer, how big is this Sea of Flowers? How much growing soil will there be in total? Compared to the growing soil mixed with the soil here, the piece of growing soil we obtained earlier and the large piece of growing soil we saw at the Phantom Spirit Auction are just dregs. Lu Ping was shaken. He wished he could scrape off a layer of soil from the ground and spread it in the Golden House to improve the quality of the soil there. However, Luan Yu's exclamation seemed to have just started. When Lu Ping continued to walk deeper into the sea of flowers, Lu Ping's nose once again smelled an unusual fragrance. This fragrance was something Lu Ping had seen in Zhenling's collection of ancient books. Thousand Fragrances Dew. This is the scent of Thousand Fragrances Dew. This quality of Thousand Fragrances Dew is definitely not inferior to a low-grade heaven-tier spirit item. Luan Yu was shouting excitedly in the Golden House. It seemed as if she was eager to rush out of the Golden House. However, she was firmly locked in the Golden House by Lu Ping and ignored. Thousand Fragrances Dew was also a kind of heaven and earth strange item that could promote the growth of spirit grasses, spirit flowers, and spirit trees, and shorten their maturation period. Its effect was not inferior to the growing soil. Thousand Fragrances Dew was a kind of strange item that could only be bred after collecting at least 1,000 kinds of spirit flowers in a place rich in spirit energy for hundreds of years or even longer. This kind of strange item's quality could be high or low, but in the end, it still depended on the quality of the spirit flower that condensed the dew. In the sea of flowers here, even the ordinary flowers would have accumulated spirit energy for hundreds of years or even longer, not to mention the spirit flowers and spirit grasses. There were many that were over 1,000 years old. So how could the quality of the Thousand Fragrances Dew be inferior to a low-grade heaven-tier spirit item? In fact, when the amethyst bees cultivated by Lu Ping collected the nectar from the spirit flowers and spirit grasses, they would also promote the growth of the spirit flowers and spirit grasses. From this point, the amethyst bees' effect on the spirit grass garden was not inferior to the Thousand Fragrances Dew and the growing soil. However, during the process of promoting the growth of the spirit flowers and spirit grasses, the amethyst bee royal jelly could also be brewed into amethyst honey. Moreover, there was also the amethyst bee royal jelly that countless alchemists would go crazy over. As long as the amethyst bees didn't go extinct, the amethyst bee royal jelly would continue to be brewed. From this point, the value of the amethyst bees was much higher than an ordinary heaven-tier spirit item. Moreover, the swarm of amethyst bees in Lu Ping's hands had grown to nearly 8,000. Under the leadership of the amethyst bee king, who was at the peak of the blood condensation realm, the unique amethyst bee Dao soldier formation could even fight against a few early and mid-stage core forging realm cultivators. The amethyst bees had already entered and left the Golden House several times under the lead of a silver peak at the peak of the blood condensation realm. In order to make it easier for the amethyst bees to enter and leave, Lu Ping simply shrunk the Golden House to a foot high and held it in his hand. The amethyst bees bustled in and out of the Golden House without rest, as if the honey in the sea of flowers had been stored for too long. Lu Ping walked through the sea of flowers for about half a day. Although he didn't use any escape techniques, it was enough for him to walk for tens of miles. The giant tree in the distance seemed to be much closer now. At this moment, Lu Ping could no longer see the giant tree clearly. He could only look up at the giant tree's branches that extended for tens of feet, sometimes even hundreds of feet. "You're finally here." A deep voice sounded as if it came from ancient times. It sounded as if it had experienced the vicissitudes of time, but it was still filled with vitality and vigor. Lu Ping looked up in surprise. He didn't know when, but a middle-aged cultivator with a simple and crude appearance was standing only a few dozen feet away from Lu Ping. The middle-aged cultivator had his hands behind his back and was smiling at Lu Ping. This person was actually able to walk to a distance of a few dozen feet from Lu Ping without being discovered. Because of the lack of necessary cultivation methods, even if spirit monsters can cultivate into a complete form and blend into the cultivation world without being noticed by others, they are mostly at the bottom of cultivators of the same level. Thus, when the old man suddenly discovered that there was a human cultivator with a spirit monster peach tree in hand, not only did he not take his life, but he even protected him, he naturally became curious and happy. The middle-aged cultivator turned to look at the huge tree and interrupted, "We're almost there. This body is too big. It's also a burden." Lu Ping was terrified. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.